It's been 1 year since we last checked on Daniel Larson. He couldn't have gotten in much more trouble, could he?
You are gonna do I am now declaring war. You'll be blown up soon. And yes, I will bomb the White House. Get out. I'm not gonna do it because I have my phone.
Get the f*** out of my car!
Try me! Try me! Try me! Look at this crackhead.
Mr. Larson, would you like to say anything before I sentence you?
Just in case you're fortunate enough to have never heard of this guy, Daniel Larson is an autistic and bipolar man who spent the better part of the last decade obsessing over child actresses and singers to the point of stalking and harassment, systematically abusing every person who tried to shelter him, and being repeatedly tricked into exposing himself online by people pretending to represent record labels. Oh, and he's also sent inappropriate messages to multiple people. I say inappropriate instead of being specific so this video doesn't get black holed, but it's about as bad as you can imagine for the LCP allegations. In the last episode of Daniel's Horror Cow Odyssey, in late 2022, he terrorizes, gaslights, and assaults his lifelong mentor and greatest benefactor, Bob Proctor, who then calls the police on him. After coming to the realization that the hard edges of criminal law might not be the most appropriate structure to deal with Daniel's erratic behaviors, Bob displays saint-like patience by giving Daniel one last saving grace, a ticket to California, where 5150 laws meant that Daniel might finally be institutionalized for his condition and behavior. Unfortunately, Bob wasn't counting on Daniel's ability to undo the efforts of others to help him. So the very next time there's a sighting of Larson in the wild, he's at a strip club. I can't imagine he's having much fun there, considering the dancers aren't 14-year-old Disney actresses, but this lack of regard for Bob and his wishes were so grievous that even OX, one of the few people going out of their way to manage and keep tabs on Daniel, gave up on him for the time, deciding he was unworthy of help and simply shouldn't have any kind of access to social media. Considering the benevolence of a few people managing his online presence was the only thing keeping the followers of the story up to date on his whereabouts. After the management gave up on him, his future grew increasingly uncertain. All we know is that Daniel was roaming the streets of California and had developed a condition called trench foot, which I thought was an esoteric disease from World War I, but apparently many homeless people end up getting it from walking around in soggy shoes for way too long. Either way, his living situation was not good, and it wasn't about to improve. Almost 2 years prior, a man named Joshua Block, known online as World of T-Shirts, who I covered in a previous video, announced he was very fond of Daniel's art and decided to work with him.
I'm signing with Daniel Larson Records. We're partnering up to make a new song. Stay tuned for further updates.
For context, Josh is in a similar position, only a lot better since he lacks the trademark belligerence that got Daniel into the position he's in. Around 2020, Josh became quite famous on TikTok for his likable, if a little strange, personality, and to this day he regularly pulls in hundreds of thousands of views in videos of him doing mundane things. Daniel was initially very psyched about this cosign, even shouting Joshua out in his own unique way.
This message is to World of T-Shirts in New York.
Since Josh had a significantly larger online presence, it meant Daniel was on the brink of fulfilling his fantasies of being famous. However, just a little while later, Josh recanted his offer to do business with Daniel after finding out about his extensive history with minors.
So I canceled the record deal with Daniel Larson Records. I didn't sign anything I was gonna sign, but then I found out about his past, and I had to cancel on him. If you encounter him, or he tries to offer you a record deal or anything, avoid him at all costs. We gotta cancel him.
This deeply angered Daniel, who went on to sporadically rant and rave about Josh over the course of the next year and a half. Mostly, the beef between them was dormant and one-sided, as Joshua's only mention of it for a while was in one video on a secondary account in which he says he's not associated with or endorsed by Daniel. This changed in November 2022 when Josh posted a video to his main account challenging Daniel to a boxing match in Times Square while displaying some unusually zesty shadow boxing. The video quickly got a lot of traction and now sits at over 1 million views and over 100,000 likes. This set Dan on edge again, and he began making threats against him.
To Joshua World of T-Shirts, I still am waiting for the boxing match. We'll have that in 2023.
Additionally, he promised to make Joshua bankrupt while singing Empire State of Mind again.
What dreams are made of, there's nothing I can't I will make Joshua Block go bankrupt. Yes, he will go bankrupt.
While the reasons for their conflict might seem obvious at first glance, they're a bit more complicated than they may appear. There were trolls instigating it by convincing Daniel that Josh was saying things about him, but perhaps more importantly, there was a specific person working behind the scenes to pit them against each other. Michael Quinn, the manager of Joshua Block. While his original TikTok account has been terminated and the archives of his content are mostly dated after the original interactions between Josh and Daniel, we know that Michael Quinn is hated by Josh's community and seen as the de facto main antagonist, blatantly manipulating and directly feeding Joshua things to say, often pushing him to aggressively engage with random people online in order to get more attention to the content.
I'm the only one that takes care of Josh. No one else does. The only one that cares for Josh is me, Michael Quinn. No one else. No one else. Tell him.
No one else. Michael Quinn is my mentor.
Whenever he's seen, he's bragging about being a multi-millionaire and the only person who cares for Josh, both of which are highly dubious claims at best. His claims of being wealthy do hold some weight though, considering he's the founder and owner of Feltman's Hot Dogs, which at least used to be a pretty successful company considering he got a segment during an NBC regional news show. However, not only is there another person who also owns Feltman's, meaning they probably split the revenue, but it's also very unlikely the company is making that much considering how competitive the fast food market is in New York. It's worth noting that when Michael says he's a multi-millionaire, he doesn't mean 2 or 3, but specifically $200 million, which is pretty crazy. And if he is that wealthy, why is he spending time with Joshua Block all day? While it's unsure how much money he's actually made, it's very hard to imagine there's any motive behind his involvement with Josh besides it being a profitable grift. I wasn't able to find properly archived versions of these particular videos, but according to the Know Your Meme article that documented this particular spat, the same day Josh challenged Daniel to a boxing match, Quinn posted on his TikTok account addressing Daniel directly and threatening him. After this interaction, Michael went on to make a plethora of other videos and TikToks provoking him, which heavily suggested that Joshua's attacks on Daniel were his idea in the first place. This may seem gratuitous at first, until you find out what happened next. Unlike a lot of instances of Daniel making threats of violence online and in real life, and no one doing anything about it, on January 1st, 2023, he was actually served with court papers. Joshua was suing Daniel for $550,000 for harassment and threats of violence, which are deemed credible threats due to Daniel's extensive criminal record and history of violence. Although I should say I kind of misspoke when I said Daniel was served with court papers because he had no address to get the letter of intent, and thus it took him a couple of days to even find out he was being sued. In all likelihood, once Michael figured out that the boxing match had no chance of happening, he settled for the next best way to capitalize on this back and forth, which was to sue Daniel, knowing he had a rap sheet, no real recourse, and would ultimately end up relying on the legal aid of a public defender. That is, if he even agreed to one and didn't try to be his own lawyer, which is something Daniel eventually did, but we'll get to that later. It's entirely possible that this was the plan to begin with. Michael, knowing Daniel was incapable of holding his tongue or controlling his violent urges, baited him with the unwitting help of trolls into saying something he could start a lawsuit over. Daniel pays it no mind though, which is understandable given his circumstances demanded a lot more immediate attention than the self-evidently absurd notion of paying over $500,000 to Josh. On the 4th of January, he autographed a picture of himself for a fan of his named Mark.
His signature, I asked him to sign it to Mark, and technically he did that. I ain't even mad.
During the same day as he was live streaming, he made the mistake of showing the restaurant he was entering before closing the stream. The ever-vigilant trolls figured out what the restaurant was and called it up, claiming that Daniel was going to go there nude. The employees actually gave this call some credence, since just by looking at now homeless Daniel Larson, you can see he might be the kind of person that's deranged enough to do such a thing. They decide to play it safe and ask Daniel to leave the restaurant to prevent anything like that from happening. As an employee is trying to persuade him to leave the premises, he begins live streaming again, threatening to call the police and accusing them of defamation. He was probably not going to go nude, but it's a virtual certainty he was planning on dining and dashing from the establishment, so ultimately, it's probably a good thing that the police were contacted. Unexplainably, right before conceding and leaving the restaurant, Daniel turns around and says this.
Just to let you guys know, I'm a lawyer.
But not everything is bad news. On the same day, he hits the milestone of 7,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. He about to make it out the hood with this one. He about to buy a Bugatti. Over the course of the next few days, Daniel begins revealing the consequences of Ox's departure, saying that his TikTok and YouTube accounts are either inaccessible or terminated. It's no biggie though, as he just makes new accounts and continues his constant frantically posting every moment of his life. On the 6th of January, he gets a trespass notice from a security guard in another restaurant, which according to the trolls following his activities, was Gladstone's at Malibu, miles above Daniel's pay grade, by the way. He for sure was going to dine and dash this one. After this incident, there's a 10-day long period of peace during which nothing of relevance takes place, with perhaps the exception of him taking part in a Discord voice chat in which he gives his opinion on the age of consent.
Do you think that the age of consent can be 15 with family permission?
Yes.
Whatever you say, Mr. President.
But you know how it is with Daniel. On the 16th, we get screenshots of his conversation with a troll pretending to be Grace. You know, after a while, Chris Chan figured out he couldn't trust anyone online because of how many trolls there were. But Daniel never quite took the hint. In these screenshots, Dan says, "Grace, I need to be honest and tell you something. I want to be serious about this, and I need to explain. I need help, and I don't know what to do. I'm being honest. I was abused at a young age." The troll in question didn't empathize with his appeal to childhood trauma, as the context of the conversation was his altercation with Bob, in which Daniel hit him and then hit himself to pretend Bob was attacking him. Over the next few days, the trolls bring up Danderson's attempt at sexting the singer Darcy Lynn when she was underage. He first tries to defend himself from the accusations of beating Bob, trying to say that they both messed up and that he takes accountability, though it's unlikely he even understands what that word means. The cherry on top of this particular exchange is when Daniel says, "The trolls tried to make me sexually attracted to you as a child." The Grace troll is attentive enough to point out that Daniel keeps referring to the evidence of him being a creep as mere accusations, but it doesn't faze Daniel, who just continues his rambling, saying, "It hurts my soul and heart. I would admit that I am a pet to fix everything and get us heard, but it might risk everything I care about. I want you, Grace. I can't lose that. The impersonator ran all of my social media accounts, so if I didn't listen to them, they would put my entire career at risk." Given his trenchfoot situation, I'm sure his soul is in a lot of pain. That response, however, is par for the course Larsonian schizobabble, but the troll picked up on his offering to confess to his crimes in exchange for being in a relationship with Grace and asking to put his money where his mouth was, and so he did. "I need to come clean. I need to tell the fans. Grace, I admit, I am a PDF file." If this wasn't sufficient, he followed these messages to who he thought was Grace with a special dedicated video.
I thought it's time for me to come clean. I admit that I am a pedophile, and I admit that yes, I hit Bob. The reason being, growing up, I didn't have anybody that really cared for me. I didn't have anybody that supported me. And, I got badly trolled, and it turned me into what I turned out to be, and I'm trying to change. I need help.
In his eyes, he hit Bob because no one cared about him in his childhood, and he became a P word because he was badly trolled. This is a good time to remind you that his Pinterest boards full of pictures of little girls were created long before any troll knew of Daniel's existence. On the same day, he supposedly uploaded a fake movie trailer to his channel as he was under the impression he'd been speaking to Netflix executives on Discord, but of course, they were just trolls. I guess this false hope of working with Netflix being crushed really got to him, as on the morning of the 17th, his TikTok account was flooded with videos of him crying over the course of roughly 2 hours. Calling what he's doing in these videos crying is pretty generous, considering he's less crying and more making crying faces and borderline yawning for most of them. It's very interesting to see Daniel doing his best to put on the melancholy act, with the sad songs playing in the background and all of that. There are 2 unexplainable videos among these, one in which he brags about being famous, followed immediately by him in the darkness listening to Corpse Husband, of all things. Immediately after posting them, he gets on a live stream and starts begging for donos, which makes it quite clear what the point of the video was. In the archived bits of this stream, he sulks about being $90 in debt after an overdraft fee, while you can literally hear him standing in line at Disneyland. Once he gets inside, the sad act completely vanishes, and I guess the excitement gets the best of him as he starts explicitly saying he wants money to get on the Tom Sawyer ride. Apparently, 2 Larson followers were responsible for getting him into Disneyland and are heard accompanying him during the stream while he's talking about investing $1 into Disney stock and holding it for a year before he sells his share. I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure a share of Disney costs more than $1. His visit to Disneyland goes by without any incident, and thank God for that. But just a day later, we're going to the usually scheduled programming, as Daniel has officially contracted scabies. In 3 posts to his YouTube community, he says, "I'm going to the hospital. I got an STI somehow. My rash has gotten bigger." On the same day, he posts a video explaining what the doctors diagnosed him with, and in case you don't know what scabies is, I guess I should put a trigger warning here because I bet some people are phobic of this one. Basically, it's a condition that happens when you have bugs literally burrowed into your skin, causing itchy rashes all over your body. A day later, he goes to the Cheesecake Factory and posts a nice selfie with the meal he's about to consume. Of course, like with pretty much all of his meals, he didn't have any money, so as soon as the check came, he began begging on his TikTok for someone to pay for it.
Alright, so I'm going to need about $80 before midnight. to be able to get the dinner paid for, and then for me to get to the train back to downtown Los Angeles. Alright, this is an emergency. The trolls have found my location, and they're calling the restaurant, so the restaurant won't let me leave now.
This time, I think nobody called the restaurant. Daniel just got in trouble for not paying and was trying to evade blame. Soon after, he begins hounding his followers to get him $100 within 2 minutes, or he'll be getting charges pressed against him, saying the police have already arrived. He makes more posts to his community page, showing the QR code for his bill, expecting someone will pay it for him. But after failing to pay, he finally gets arrested for dining and dashing after having done so multiple times with no consequences. For a second, it looked as if the Larsonian plot armor was losing its power. However, he gets released immediately after it, probably when the cops realize the extent of Daniel's issues. Even after being arrested, Daniel refuses to play it safe, as the very next day he drops these bangers.
Sandy Hook was false, and Alex Jones was a good man. Sandy Hook is a hoax, and the kids are in hell.
Concurrently, he relays to his audience that he's been banned from yet another restaurant, this time before he even got to order and eat anything. This is most likely due to all the restaurants in the area getting tipped by police that Daniel is a serial dine and dasher who should be turned away upon arrival. But Daniel tries to paint himself as the victim, complaining that they didn't believe him that he couldn't charge his phone anymore. Strangely enough, in every other video he posted about this, it seems he accidentally used a TikTok audio from a girl talking about reading comments and gave himself long eyelashes with a filter. Looks good on him, to be honest. I think it's a very suitable look. In the videos he made after his arrest, he doesn't mention dining and dashing at all, saying instead that the restaurant got slammed and that 2 of his fans are responsible for causing issues. He also reveals the meal did eventually get paid for by another one of his fans, who happened to be a lawyer, according to him. Regardless, the charge he got, defrauding an innkeeper, would cost him $950 in fines. He alleges that the innkeeper was a hater and was mad that the restaurant was getting too many calls. It's very funny how good Daniel is at emulating how celebrities speak, yet he's completely unable to even acknowledge the fact that the primary reason he got in trouble was for not paying for his food, not because the innkeeper was a hater. Daniel also got upset that the people at the restaurant and the cops were going through his social media, saying it was unprofessional of them. In his community posts, which are hard to come by since the YouTube account they were on is now gone, he reveals he's been kicked out of a Target and explains he's trying to get in contact with the company responsible for his housing, saying he'll soon be moving into a new place. The rest of January is void of any significant happenings. The calm before the storm, if you will, or considering that we're talking about Daniel, the roaring thunder. February begins with him confessing that the Pinterest the trolls found that had hundreds of pictures of little kids in folders was indeed his. However, as much as it's a confession, it's not quite an admission of guilt, as you can see.
Yes, the Pinterest was mine, and yes, I actually followed all of those pictures and stuff of, like, children. I did that at the time because I needed to get everything heard with the abuse that was going on in the disability system. Like, I was actually being, like, hit by the providers, and I did need to make that public. I knew it wasn't going to go viral. I knew I couldn't get help. So I had to do something to be able to save myself, and I didn't know how. So I made the Pinterest.
So he made a Pinterest account with that stuff in it and advertised it to absolutely no one so that he could get attention to his supposedly being abused at whatever care center he was at the time. Sounds believable. A general rule for Daniel Larson's online activity is that whenever he starts preemptively making defensive statements about something he's been accused of, most likely it's because he knows he's about to get exposed for it. Case in point, within 24 hours, he made a post to his YouTube community claiming that he'd found another Grace Vanderwall impersonator, showing his conversation with this troll on Discord. However, he only shows the last few messages. Soon after this, the rest of his exchanges get revealed to the public, and it's the stuff of nightmares. The prints begin with Daniel saying Grace looks like she could milk, and after specifically choosing an underage picture of her to send, Daniel says he has a liking to, let's keep calling it milk for monetization purposes, and piss. Then asks if she feels like her groin is getting pulled out, punctuating these messages with, like a cow, moo. He also often pontificated about how certain things would smell, and I'm struggling to believe this is a real person at this point. It seems like he believes stimulating the bladder plays some role in the reproductive act and keeps using the word ache to describe what the person in question would feel during it. As much as it's disturbing, it's also just confusing. After all this back and forth, Daniel says he feels like his relationship with Grace is like Romeo and Juliet. If this were the case, instead of it ending with the couple drinking poison, it'd be everyone else doing it, so they wouldn't have to witness Daniel's stuff anymore. The 4th of February is a very busy day for Daniel. For whatever reason, he decides to put all of his belongings into a bag and start a stream, threatening to throw the bag off of a cliff. Except when he does throw it, it audibly immediately hits the ground. Upon geolocating where he was during the recording, it's obviously not a cliff, meaning he immediately retrieved the bag as soon as the stream ended. Just 2 days later, the bag comes back into play as Daniel addresses the images that had been circling his name, where social media accounts representing entities like the LAPD were claiming Daniel's bag contained an IED and an unspecified firearm. How and why exactly these came about is mostly unknown, but based on what we can see in Daniel's video addressing it, someone did convince the police to pay a visit to him while he was at a restaurant. He describes it as a raid involving multiple cop cars, but knowing Daniel, that's probably an exaggeration. The next meaningful activity happens on the 10th when he went live with his new management, meeting a new group of trolls who worked their way into his circle of trust. First, they seem to be your regular run-of-the-mill guys, getting Daniel to say goofy things, such as what he would do at a BLM rally.
What would you do at a Black Lives Matter rally, Daniel?
I mean, run for my life.
However, his streaming with the trolls was a grave mistake, as it allowed the people watching the stream to figure out that for the past few days, he'd been sleeping in the Planet Fitness bathroom. Without skipping a beat, they figured out which particular Planet Fitness he was squatting at and alerted them to his whereabouts. An altercation between Daniel, an employee, and a client ensued, with Daniel refusing to leave.
You need to leave. I told you to leave the men's restroom.
I literally have to kick you out. You have to go.
Don't even call me that. You called me a f***er, okay? You called me a coward. Well, what's your name?
You don't even know my name. Let's go.
Yes, because I'm gonna file reports for calling me like names and.
While there's more than enough footage showing how irate Daniel becomes when called things such as a coward and yellow belly, video of him conceding and leaving the gym is noticeably absent. Maybe this is because he purposely didn't record himself leaving because he felt it was embarrassing, or maybe he did and we just don't have the footage for whatever reason. Either way, this incident is immediately followed up by this bombastic little statement.
Since I've now been kicked out of 35 different Planet Fitnesses, I am now declaring war. You'll be blown up soon.
First off, 35 different Planet Fitnesses. I'm assuming he got banned from all of the other 34 for the same reasons, which means not only is he a serial dine and dasher, but also a squatter. Secondly, can you even say things like that, legally speaking? I know that the First Amendment covers a lot of stuff, but threatening to bomb establishments? Not so sure about that. It's been said that on the same day he got kicked out of an unspecified shopping center, but I haven't been able to find info on that. Though, if the Planet Fitness he got banned from was in a shopping center, these bans are probably related. On the 13th, he gets on a bus to Las Vegas, somehow, which mystifies me, considering he has no money. His managers and sporadic sympathizers must be sending him money through the thousands of Cash App accounts he has. A day later, he finds himself in an almost identical situation as the Planet Fitness incident, but this time it went a little differently. Instead of a friendly neighborhood Planet Fitness, Daniel tried to squat in the bathroom of a casino in Vegas, and the security guards weren't half as patient or willing to argue with a clearly disheveled and homeless Danderson. At around 2 a.m., once he had already been successfully ousted from the place by two gentlemen who reacted to his insanity in the appropriate manner, he did what he does best: play the victim.
Walk. I was just trying to walk. I was just trying to use the goddamn bathroom. Walk. Good walk. I will myself.
This is yet another instance of Daniel going on the record, threatening to do something drastic when he doesn't get his way. You gotta wonder how many times he's already pulled this routine on his caretakers and Bob when there was no one watching. Later on, he begins heavily zooming into a small, bloody bruise on his finger to highlight how brutal the security was with him, and if that wasn't enough, he accuses them of sexual harassment.
The f***ing security at that motel right across the street sexually tried to harass me.
Ask you to report property.
The person he's talking to while he makes these accusations is a park guard who proceeds to realize that Daniel is some kind of insane bum and tells him the area is closed and that he needs to leave, which Daniel fails to do as he's caught up in this nonsensical ranting and raving. According to the Larsonian lore, either this same day or in a very close window of time, some follower of his paid for a hotel room for him to stay through the night, and Daniel tried to talk a drunk couple into paying for another hotel room after picking up the coins that fell out of the woman's purse, to no avail. Apparently, after his casino incident, Daniel has been banned from all MGM casinos and has his biometric info in their database as per a Reddit user who happened to work graveyard shifts at a casino. Another addition to this never-ending cascade of negative events surrounding Daniel is that apparently his eyesight is decaying and fast. As of now, he has to squint to be able to see clearly. Within a day, he tries his hand at sleeping at yet another casino, but this time he gets caught much quicker and is swiftly dealt with.
You are trespassed. You can never come back here again.
For literally just sitting here watching the game.
For sleeping 3 times, that's why.
I wasn't
Are you
sleeping,
going to leave?
though. I wasn't sleeping,
Are you
though.
going to leave or are you going to be arrested?
I will. But
Okay.
I'm just trying to get my message across. I was not sleeping. I was watching the game. Just because I closed my eyes for like a second.
Look, no more conversations. Walk out the door.
Yeah, but you guys want us to spread lies about me.
No, we're not spreading anything. We're not going to even have a conversation anymore. All you got to do is leave the building.
Why am I being trespassed?
We already said it a million times. Let's go.
All right, then I'll leave. You guys are like lying about everything.
After all of this ruckus, Daniel claims he will be doing a 2-hour live stream, which never came to fruition, as for a brief period, Daniel actually went missing in action. People immediately started worrying, fearing he would go the way of Terry Davis while unsupervised by his online troll handlers. It's kind of ironic because, on one hand, the trolls are the cause of all of his misery. They constantly mock him, bait him into saying horrible things, and they love watching the horrible behavior. But at the same time, these are the only people watching over him, keeping track of his location, seeing what he's doing. On the 15th, a post was made to the Las Vegas subreddit showing Daniel as a missing person. Someone replied to the post saying, "I left for work yesterday at about 7 a.m., so there was practically no one on the strip. Saw the ambulance in front of Crack Shack, and they were lifting someone onto a gurney over the small barrier and up into the ambulance. They looked annoyed, and I wondered why they were even taking this person away because he just looked like a standard homeless person to me. You could tell the guy was mouthing off. The hair and face in the post immediately caught my eye. It was the guy being put in the ambulance." Daniel's subreddit erupted in concern, and along with it, there were many claimed sightings, but nothing really concrete. One of the few pieces of footage of someone claiming they saw Daniel in the wild came from a TikTok user named Trudy Parker1, who posted this video and adamantly maintained that the person walking away was Daniel. And yeah, it does really look like him. And to further support this is the fact that he was roaming in the vicinity of a cheesecake factory, one of his natural habitats at this point. However, this sighting happened on the 16th, and for the next 5 days, no one had any news from Daniel. Some began to believe he'd broken his phone, which would be a death sentence, as despite many people occasionally paying for his food and transportation, a phone was a tad more expensive than what his following was comfortable with subsidizing. On the 22nd, Daniel was seen once again, this time completely bald and erratically skulking on the side of the road. According to the person who shared this clip, Daniel had just been kicked out of a bus for refusing to pay the fare, was wearing the same clothes he'd been wearing for the previous 8 days, and apparently still had his phone, but it was either dead or broken. A day went by, and during the afternoon of the 23rd, Daniel resurfaced triumphantly on a new TikTok account, Daniel Larson LV, for Las Vegas. In his comeback video, he says 2 fans of his approached him while he was at a casino and got him some food. Once they had his trust and his defenses were down, one of them took a swing at Daniel from behind, knocked him down, and stole his phone, allegedly fracturing his skull so bad it would take up to half a year to heal. While it's assumed that he's lying about parts of this story, such as fans of his being responsible for it, it also seems like he's not entirely lying. Some people on Reddit had said they saw him getting into an ambulance, which would fit his story of having gone to the hospital to get his skull checked. In his downtime, probably due to the hospital noticing Daniel was mentally challenged and homeless, Daniel secured almost $400 in monthly food stamps and housing from a company called Sober Homes. As soon as Daniel's eyes once again met with the hypnotic blue light of a smartphone screen, the veil of delusion swept him up from his grimy reality and back into his fantasies. Suddenly, his story about being robbed turned into being attacked by Grace Vanderwall's ex-boyfriend, who was mad at him for having stolen her heart. The next few days were peaceful, with a few videos that were uploaded being mundane things, such as him waiting for a tram and attending a free concert. However, on the 27th, he once again became homeless because apparently Sober Homes, or Sober Homies as Daniel prefers to say, was expecting him to pay rent, which is obviously very unfair.
Okay, everyone, I have terrible news. So, Sober Homies did kick me out of their service. I did not have enough money to pay for the rent.
His TikTok account from this period is now gone, and consequently, the videos aren't exactly easy to find. What has been documented in text form is that during his sober homie's exile, Daniel posted about 50 videos spanning multiple topics. In these, he claimed he was now trying to contact housing companies in California and Colorado, and that unfortunately, this would prevent him from having a girlfriend or a job. Not that he could get either in the first place, as he immediately follows this up by saying that the places he applies to for a job are blackmailing him, which I take he actually meant as blackballing, and they won't hire him due to his reputation. He also explains that he made $30,000 off of donations in the past year, which would get him in trouble with the disability services, but he doesn't care too much about that. Not only did he expect to continue being homeless for the months to come, but he also said that believing that he isn't disabled has actually improved him mentally. In his addled state, Daniel randomly pivots to Bob and starts lying about being on a phone call with him, claiming that Bob apologized and told Daniel that the state needs to get him housing or he'll buy a gun. It's always when there's an inkling of pity for Daniel that he says things like that. I'm willing to bet that the only reason he hasn't assaulted more people is because on some level, he knows he wouldn't get away with it. After all, he felt comfortable attacking Bob, a senior citizen. If Daniel ever got his hands on a gun, God forbid, there's a very decent chance he'll end up taking someone's life. After posting a video indicating he's once again being tricked into thinking he's talking to Grace, he eats a meal at Dave & Buster's, which he obviously can't pay for, and so he dine and dashes, which gets him kicked out from not only the restaurant, but also the entire mall. In the videos following, it becomes clearer why he started talking about Bob again. The trolls are simultaneously pretending to be Bob and Grace.
This is crazy. Why am I getting a message that Grace Vanderwall is in downtown Las Vegas right now trying to find me? Bob literally just ignored me when I called him and said, ask Grace for security. Grace Vanderwall, I need your help. Message me immediately. I'm in danger.
Once again, he began asking people online to pay for his meal, but I guess he felt embarrassed about it, so he lied about having $200 in his Cash App, and the only reason he couldn't pay for his meal was that his debit card randomly got locked. He didn't keep this particular charade going for very long, as shortly after, he admits to only having $10 in his bank and asks for $30 so the restaurant doesn't call the cops on him. In the last post in this series, he's frantically saying he needs Grace's help and is in danger, and we can see the reason for his desperation. The fog is back, and has slowly begun to consume his frontal camera again. On the 28th, he gets in trouble in yet another establishment, but this time in an even funnier way. It seems that he'd been sleeping in the bathroom of a bar for an unspecified amount of time, and he didn't get thrown out, but instead got the equivalent of a soft block. In the video he posted about it, he was complaining that upon leaving his improvised crypt in the bar's bathroom, he was ordering things, and the employees were leading him on as if his orders were being prepared while they evidently weren't. Daniel, of course, was fuming about this, not only because he didn't get to eat for free, but they also refused to aggressively throw him out, which would then give him the opportunity to play the victim again. They simply called the cops on him, and when they asked them why, they said they didn't know. A genius move on their part. He also seems to be developing some kind of paranoid disorder, as he seems to believe 2 of the employees have been following him around, but it's not really certain what he meant by that. Archives of this day become even more scant, not only because the account was deleted, but during that time, he temporarily had his account privated due to his new phone number leaking, which limited the number of people getting to see what he uploaded. According to vigilant Larsonians, he showed his bank balance at negative $200, meaning he had pretty aggressively overdrafted. After denying claims that he'd gotten some TikTok celebrity pregnant, he went live, which we do have footage of. It appears that Daniel was under the impression that Grace and her team would join the stream due to the messages he received, but of course they didn't, and just like that, February ended. On the 1st of March, his TikTok account goes back to being public and is promptly flooded with videos of the nasty scabs all over his body from the scabies. Considering he frequently invades and squats at Planet Fitness, where I know for a fact there has to be like one shower in many of them, if not most of them, why doesn't he just use them and take care of it? After his last doctor visit over his scabies, he was told by the doctor specifically to get new clothes, and though he asked for and got donations to buy new clothes, he kept wearing the same old clothing as always. Another notable thing about the scab videos is that they're recorded in yet another casino, meaning he's not playing it very safe. Next up is a series of rabid TikTok posts in which he talks about Bob again. Initially, he starts railing against Bob for supposedly not helping him with something that Daniel needed in order to secure housing.
This message is for Bob, not contacting the diversion program when they wanted him to be able to help with the housing and court stuff.
It gets pretty confusing to understand what's going on, but from my understanding, it seems that Daniel fell for yet another impersonator and has been talking to them instead of the real Bob. He begins threatening he'll destroy Bob's reputation somehow, and also mentions Bob hasn't helped his career, but makes a caveat that Bob still occasionally helps with other things. In this case, I think Daniel is referring to the real Bob, who still supported Daniel financially in some areas. It's interesting to see that despite that, he still finds a way to complain about it and claim that Bob only helping him in some areas but not with his career just makes it worse. The next thing that happened will actually shock you.
Okay, this is an emergency, but I've lost contact with Bob, and Bob will not answer any of my phone calls. Okay, there's an emergency. Bob just fully blocked my number.
Well, there's a chance that he's just trying to call the impersonator. There's also a good chance that he said all of these things about Bob, who became rightfully upset and decided to block him. There's a brief unarchived portion wherein Daniel's paranoia resurfaces as during another bout of dining and dashing, Daniel begins saying that the people sitting in a booth across from him in the restaurant have been talking about him non-stop for an hour. Things get more cryptic and possibly even dangerous when Daniel talks about a pink Easter egg he's hiding at the restaurant. Soon after, we started getting clarifications from Daniel about his mysterious statements, as it seems he was planning to buy fireworks and ignite them inside of a casino.
Okay, folks, get ready for the biggest incident of all of Daniel Larson history so far. Let's do this. First of all, dynamite is not the same thing as a bomb threat. Okay, I'm going to go into a casino with a firework, and then I can see how real firing works.
This is one of the strangest Daniel Larson moments so far, don't get me wrong. He's obviously done worse than threatening to blow up a casino with fireworks. However, most of these worst things are done in the patent Larson way. First, he self-righteously does something he knows he's not supposed to do, and then puts on an act where he's now the victim. This time, and only this time, he went all out and embraced the role of a cartoon villain. He truly never ceases to amaze. Nothing happened, as you can imagine. He didn't get fireworks because he doesn't have money to buy them, besides one unarchived video in which Daniel claims to have flooded the toilets in one of these places. Because of his threats, his account got reported, and he made two new ones, Daniel Larson NYC and Love Daniel Larson Forever. It's kind of funny the way that a lot of these guys will name their accounts almost as if they're fan accounts. The day ends nonchalantly as Daniel plays pool for almost 25 minutes on his YouTube account. The next day wasn't as nice though, as people were mystified by the fact that despite the two new accounts having been freshly created, no videos were going up. Eventually, a post went up on his subreddit saying, as of right now, he is in custody of the LVMPD. He was confirmed arrested and trespassed from a casino last night. I verified this information with their security team and the LVMPD. Do not try to call or interact with anyone in regard to this. Let the professionals handle this. A few hours later, a couple of updates were made to the original post, saying he's likely not yet been charged or booked in any detention centers in Clark County. He was likely sent to a medical facility, but will be transferred to a jail afterward. We will likely know tomorrow. Daniel is not criminally charged and is being treated as a mental health patient, at least a 72-hour hold. For the next 12 days, Daniel is radio silent, as he'd been sent to a psych ward in which he had no access to his phone. Despite his lack of activity, the subreddit remained as active as ever, especially when YouTuber Kusari dropped a 2.5-hour documentary about him. Ox also resurfaced and spoke out to correct a few details on Daniel's lore. Within a day of the documentary being published, Daniel returned to his Daniel Larson NYC account and explained what had been going on behind the scenes.
Hello everyone, I am okay. I was in another attack. Because of the attack that happened 2 weeks ago, I am now lifetime banned from the Stratosphere Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas due to the attack. I got out today after 2.5 weeks from the mental health hospital in Las Vegas.
But no Larsonian activity is complete without a hefty side order of psychotic delusion.
When I was in the mental health hospital, they did the mathematics with my popularity and how much I should be making, and the psychiatric doctors in 2023 said that I should be making at least $5,000 a month.
On the 16th, he pulls a Peter Griffin and spends an inordinate amount of time reeling in after walking into something and hurting his leg.
Ow. Oh my god, I'm feeling popping in my leg.
Turns out this took place in the Tropicana Hotel, from which Daniel was kicked out as soon as an employee noticed he was charging his phone despite not being a guest there. Just let a brother charge his phone, okay? He's TikTok famous. Though we no longer can see the particular post I'm about to refer to, Daniel has become known for using a fake banking app to try and pull on people's heartstrings and beg for donations, an example of which was archived and shared a few months later. As you can see, there's an edit button right next to the checking account, and he has ludicrous things on the expenditures, such as a whopping $8.50 spent on energy and security. I'm bringing this up because after leaving the psych ward, Daniel was angling to scrounge up some money to leave Las Vegas. So he posted a screenshot of that fake banking app saying he was $755,597.58 in debt. I guess he took out a couple of mortgages while in the ward. On the 17th, he did a live stream, which we unfortunately don't have archived, in which he reads threats he received in the chat and begins sprinting while looking over his shoulder and licking up his runny nostrils. Must have been a sight to see. He blamed Michael Quinn for the attack and claimed he was now on an iPod Touch, announcing the next place he'd be traveling to is Phoenix, Arizona. In a community post, he specifies he'll only be there for a few hours, as his final aim is New Orleans, presumably to try and make it as a rapper, considering many of his posts during this brief period consist of Daniel freestyling.
Yeah, I'm the monkey, I'm the Sphinx, yeah, it stinks when I'm standing up here next to the Sphinx, but yeah, I am the king, you know my name. Thank you, Ariana Grande, for the $70 donation.
The next bus stop was at Tucson, Arizona, and throughout his community updates, he kept stressing the need for donations because without them, he'd be unable to complete the trip. It seems this was yet another minor scam for Daniel, as one of the next videos he uploaded to his TikTok was him eating some cookie dough, which he had apparently bought with the money donated to him. In a serendipitous turn of events, Daniel ran into a few followers of his while in Tucson. Besides someone who called the cops on him, prompting Daniel to declare full lockdown, the fans treated him well, took a selfie with him, which I was unable to find, and paid for dinner, as seen in a video he posted to his YouTube channel. Though in it, he claimed he treated himself to it after getting back his distribution. In a video, Daniel reveals that he was supposed to get on a bus that took him to Roswell, but ended up in El Paso by accident. Once he was there, he got the police called on him while he was in a restaurant. He spends basically the rest of the month traveling around Texas and trying to get back on track on his way to NYC. Supposedly, if there's any truth to his TikTok handle. On the 24th, he decides to start modeling and informs his audience of his financial situation.
I need to make $1,000 because I am behind $1,000 this month.
Later on, he starts getting paranoid again, saying there's been a white pickup following him the entire day.
My location is fully doxxed. My fans are doxing my location. I'm going to need donations for me to get an Uber out of the area. There's been a person in a white pickup truck following me around all day long.
Daniel's under the impression that this is a hitman out for his life. During this ordeal, he keeps talking about whether getting donations or convincing people in real life, such as Whataburger employees, to let him call for an emergency Uber. It's difficult to say to what degree Daniel was actually terrified for his life and how much of his panic was played up so he could get a means of transportation out of that place. But I think it's probably safe to say that the trolls definitely weren't helping his perceptions and paranoia during this time. Indeed, someone was following Daniel, but it seemed to be a follower of his. After he extensively LARPed about the Greyhound he was on being his private tour bus, someone calls Daniel up and has a nice chat with him.
Do you remember whenever you got kicked out of the MGM?
Yeah.
I'm the one who told the security and I'm the one who got you kicked out.
Why was that?
Because you have scabies and because you're and you like children.
That is not true.
The Pinterest account, Daniel, with the little children.
Okay, so I had my all my social media accounts stolen from me, and I had to take it to court, and I won that case.
Whoa.
On the 29th, he gives a shout out to a very dear close friend of his.
Shout out to Jeffrey Epstein.
At the tail end of March, he uploaded this.
My fans need to stop trying to frame me. It's not okay.
According to his next upload, people called up local law enforcement and made a variety of threats, and because of this, Daniel had to be detained. In a comment, he revealed that the phone calls and threats also affected his dining experience, as he was supposedly followed into a restaurant. Well, it's very confusing to try and clear up what was actually happening since Daniel is a very unreliable narrator, and most of his videos aren't up anymore. It looks to be the usual Danderson gets kicked out for being unable to pay or for being infested with scabies. Something we've all gone through, frankly. According to the date shown in the video itself, this took place on March 30th, while Daniel was in Houston.
Serious question that I do need to ask, okay?
Go ahead.
So, recently I gained a bunch of popularity over social media.
We don't have time for that.
Okay, but
can you leave?
Somebody has been doxing my okay. called into the police department that you guys are not cooperating. Call fucking dispatch. Call fucking dispatch.
We have to come back as criminal trespass.
Okay, you're putting me in physical danger. I told you that I was getting doxxed!
Around the same time period, he got banned from the Greyhound. He also keeps accusing his followers of doxing his location when he is the one self-doxing repeatedly.
Okay, so the fans fully breached my location, and the manager is kicking me out due to fans showing up and calling. So I have to leave.
Him being banned from the bus may or may not be due to this conspiracy from the posters on his subreddit to call the bus company and pretend to be passengers annoyed by his antics. Before the month ended, he looked to be running around in a park, having his paranoid delusions triggered by threatening text messages he'd been getting on his phone.
I am going to... Okay, I'm getting actual threats. I'm after you. Here I come. I'm going to tackle you. And I see absolutely no one around me. I am getting, like, tickle monster, weird, really, really weird messages. Something about, like, a tickle monster and all this weird shit. I'm going to you? Wow. Excuse me. I am getting death threats from a guy that is following me around. Can I, okay.
On the 1st of April, he sets up a Discord to talk to his fans, and the conversation organically turned into a Q&A. While his account doesn't last long before being hacked or taken over by the people managing him at the time, he relays some very important information to them, such as the fact that he's planning to get a sandwich after receiving $48 in donations. More importantly, the fans discover that since Daniel can no longer get on buses, his management got him a plane ticket to the East Coast. On the 3rd of April, he boards the flight with no issues, which is surprising considering his proclivities to talk about blowing places up. He was even nice enough to provide some selfies for his management on Discord. It seems that making threats and being generally belligerent is like Daniel's Tourette's tick, and because he was aware enough to know he was under the scrutiny of airport security, who would absolutely not put up with it, he held it in. The thing about holding it in, though, is that you eventually have to let it all out, which he did immediately upon landing.
Okay, stop leaking my number. I don't give a what my fans think. Stop leaking my number. This is not funny. I am pressing charges. I will f***ing destroy my entire career and end up behind bars for life today if you guys do not stop leaking my phone number. These f***ing trolls leaking my number, calling me, getting Bob and me on arguments over phone calls is driving me f***ing insane. They need to f***ing stop before somebody gets killed.
This may seem like a typical episode from Mr. President, but things escalate quickly.
Somebody at the airport tried to get me to get in their car. I refused, and I punched the guy in the nose. I punched the guy actually in his nose.
Unfortunately for Daniel, he let loose a bit too early, and the employees were being alerted to things he was saying online.
The airport security did see me. This is a problem. They are thinking that I am currently being suspicious, with me being on video and panicking. Oh my hell.
For the sake of clarity, this meltdown is taking place on a train to New York, as Daniel's flight took him to Newark, New Jersey, and then a follower of his drove him to Jersey City so he could take the train, though he occasionally misspeaks and claims he's in New York already.
Daniel Larson is in New York!
In these circumstances Dan currently finds himself in, you'd think some amount of reality would be able to seep in, or at the very least that he would stop broadcasting his live reaction to being under the suspicion of airport security. But ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Larson is simply built different, and frankly he's built better than the rest of us.
Okay, the fans want me to go to a particular location. They're trying to plan an assassination attempt. I need security. I need help ASAP. This is serious. I'm under attack. Stop. You guys are f***ing scaring me. Stop.
The next day would prove equally intense for Daniel. A video clip that seems to have been recorded without his knowledge shows him in what looks like some kind of diner. I presume a couple of his followers approached him and offered to pay for a meal in exchange for having a convo. This was the result.
So I made the Pinterest as a way to go viral at that time.
Of course, it's a smart way, right?
Yeah, and then I told the fans that, like...
You know, it was Flexburger, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And not Flexburger, but you know what I mean. I threw it off.
It was a bunch of them. It was a lot of them.
But then when it went viral, it did actually get hacked. So that is the truth.
I guess this is as fitting a time as ever to go over Daniel's Quora account, which was unearthed in the same month. Now, I will say that given that these accounts were created after Daniel was already somewhat of a known entity, they could have been done by trolls. In one of these accounts, he repeatedly asks questions like, do you feel like you need to pee when you get your vagina eaten out? And what was your first time getting Cummings as a child like? In another account, similar questions are asked, but this time with the names like Jojo Siwa, Darcy Lynn, and Grace Vanderwall attached to them. If you haven't watched the first video, these are girls Daniel has been obsessing over for years, with particular emphasis on pictures of them when they were very much, you know, very young. Again, when making videos on people like these, a lot of things can be in good fun, but there's always a chance that guys like Daniel might, at any moment, actually victimize someone. As far as I'm concerned, this is very good grounds to have him under permanent supervision until, you know, the day he dies, basically. Back to the happenings of April 5th. After his encounter with the fan who asked him about the Pinterest account, a user on TikTok with the name Zoc Monkey posted a video where Daniel can be seen behaving erratically in a bodega.
Daniel. I've asked you to leave.
Daniel.
I've asked you to leave. We're on the phone with the police.
Daniel.
I've asked you to
Come on,
leave.
Daniel. You know me.
No, I don't.
You do. We're
No, I
friends.
don't. I'm on the phone with my security.
Are you smoking crack or tweak?
No, I'm not.
While this IRL encounter was happening, Daniel was on a call with some people he considered his managers, and we have a recording of that call.
I've already punched the security guard.
You already punched him?
Yeah, I did. Because he put hands on me. And I told him that I'm a celebrity and you're clearly putting me in danger by doing this. You guys should, you know, like, at least understand that, like, I don't know these people. I'm trying to call the police, and you guys are not listening.
If Daniel is to be believed here, he'd already assaulted a security guard for trying to make him leave the bodega. However, things escalate quite quickly, due not only to Daniel's inability to respect the authority of the employee telling him to leave, and to the people on the Discord call with him egging him on to act out.
This police need to walk out right now.
Yes, the police are on their way.
You wait for the police outside. Let's go.
I'm not going to do that. Because the police told me to wait here. I have you on film. I have you on film.
Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out.
I have you on film. I have you on film. No. No, because you hit me. You hit me in there.
You're going to get arrested.
There's a brief moment after this where Daniel goes silent, presumably because he accidentally turned his phone off or something. Soon after, he informs the other people on the call of what happened.
I'm injured. The guy, he tackled me to the ground. I had to hit him for protection.
In the immediate aftermath of this scuffle, Daniel sends this voicemail to someone, calling them a racial slur.
I got a death threat. You guys should take that seriously.
Wait, he's cool now. For whatever reason, he was under the impression the bodega was a block away from Grace's house. The posting resumes once he's in the hospital.
This is what I look like after I got assaulted by 2 fans in New York City.
While he says the attack came from his fans, according to Zoc, they'd already left the bodega a few minutes prior due to being yelled at by the same employee who ended up tackling Daniel. On April 6th, as Daniel reeled in from the fight, one of the Grace impersonators in contact with him told him that she was in Kansas, prompting Daniel to publicly consider leaving New York just a few days after getting there. However, fate would simply not have it. Everyone following Daniel knew of his history with Josh, who was notorious for being from New York. So it was really a match made in heaven. I mean, the two were supposed to meet. It was fate. The flames between them were fanned by the followers once again, and eventually this culminated in Josh officially re-entering the Larson verse to celebrate Daniel's defeat and claim New York City supremacy.
I made it in New York. I can make it anywhere. Unlike Daniel, he made it 10 hours and then he got punched in the nose here. He's not a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker. I'm the captain of the ship. I run New York!
Because of the provocations, Daniel became very aggravated and responded to them at length, though I haven't been able to find many of these posts since Daniel was banned almost immediately after. The reason for the ban is quite obvious. Dan was constantly threatening their lives and saying he was going to shoot them. In a conversation he had on Discord with someone impersonating Taylor Swift, he straight up declares he was going to kill Michael Quinn. The last post he made to his TikTok before it got banned was this.
If I were World of T-shirts or anybody from past management involved in tonight, I would step down because I have a gun.
Within a day, he makes a new one, which has now also been banned, and starts posting on it. Behind the scenes, someone was fueling his hatred towards Michael Quinn and Joshua Block, claiming that one or both of them were Jewish and incentivizing Daniel to express anti-Semitic sentiments on his TikTok. Daniel embraced this and made a modeling TikTok, with the audio being from a parody song by Rucka Rucka Ali, where he speaks from the point of view of, I'm gonna call him Zadolf Zindler for this video, but I think you guys know who I'm talking about. On the 8th of April, he apologizes profusely to multiple people.
This message is for Tyrone. Please stop. Listen, I f***ed up, and I'm sorry. This message is for Bob. I am sorry for hitting him. I'm sorry, Grace, for causing so much stress in your family and cheating on you.
2 days later, we can see not only that the bruise on his nose is in the same shape as Africa, but that Daniel has also been picking at it, which is quite dangerous considering how generally filthy he is and how easy it would be for him to contract a serious infection. Meanwhile, a new conspiracy is being hashed on a subreddit, one where multiple different users make posts claiming to have made fortunes off of selling merchandise based on Daniel's likeness, but without his approval. Others claim they're re-releasing his music without his consent, all without giving him a penny. As far as trolling schemes go, this one is quite clever, since they know he regularly looks up online activity discussing him. Over the next few days, his online activities resume, but mostly stick to him begging for donations and documenting every place he goes. The only notable thing about this is the very noticeable progression of his nose wound, which is getting pretty bad due to him picking at it. According to the information gathered and relayed on the Daniel Larson wiki, over the course of the 11th and 12th of April, Daniel staged yet another invasion, this time the American Dream Mall. As per Daniel's post to his YouTube account, which is now gone, he was escorted out of there by 20 troopers. Guessing from how many other crazy homeless people there must be in New York, people there are familiar enough with his kind to know not to give him the time of day and try to argue him out of his delusions. I'm guessing that's why we see little to no activity from Daniel for the next week and a half. On the 21st, user Real Tina Vanderwall made a definitive post compiling all of the evidence that had surfaced so far regarding Daniel Larson being a creep. While we've already covered most of the stuff in the post, it's worth elaborating on one of the more prominent pieces of evidence that you may or may not have seen before. For a very long time, this video of Daniel pushing a girl onto a bed has been making rounds as people try to speculate on what's going on. Some people claim Daniel was trying to do something evil, while others say he was just playing with her in a harmless manner. After people repeatedly brought it up to Daniel, he clarified in a post on his YouTube community that she was a close family friend and he was just playing with her. However, in the same post, he identifies her by name, and if we take a look at his old Twitter account, we can find multiple tweets in which he says someone by that name is an upcoming porn star and that he himself is also one. This, plus the many unreadably inappropriate messages he exchanged on Kick with people he thought were minors, and the facts that he eventually changed his name to Bill Carter so people wouldn't give him grief over it, are very damning. A day later, Daniel started posting on his community tab and TikTok, sounding like he was yet again in the clutches of a Bob impersonator. On the 23rd, he posted videos of how his trench foot was looking at the time, which I very fortunately haven't been able to find. Thank God. What we do have is this video of him celebrating his new headphones.
It's time to turn the big 4 into the big 5 and make everyone else go bankrupt. If you guys want to play a game of checkers, I will take it to a game of chess.
According to what's on the wiki, along with the new headphones, he also bought new socks, and not just any kind, but socks that cost $40 a pair. It's unclear how this happened, but it looks like he got his hands on some money and did what he always does, spent it all immediately and very poorly. This stretch of time in which Daniel manages to restrain himself from getting into altercations with random strangers doesn't just end, but crashes and burns on the 26th. After returning to his tried and true method of doing jumping jacks to thank for donations, Daniel undergoes the mysterious machete incident.
Emergency, I just got f***ing hit. I just got f***ing beat. I just got attacked last night. The person walked up to me, asked me if I could get them one cigarette. I said, I am sorry, I don't carry cigarettes on me. They said I was being racist for saying that. The person was carrying a machete and just started going like, if you don't get me one cigarette, I will beat the living crap out of you. Get up now.
take me to go get a cigarette, and then they started beating on me, like 100 bats, pretty much. It was like a machete, but it was like in some type of case, so when they were hitting me, when the person was hitting me last night, it was the case that was hitting me.
Oddly enough, despite how radical a claim he just made, he moved on from it without ever missing a beat. The 26 also sees Daniel adding a new thing to his repertoire. Instead of complaining about not getting enough donations and asking for more, he complains about getting too many.
Alright, my fans are the most manipulated people in the entire world. After I found out that I was never really in contact with Grace and it was an impersonator all along, I have made $700. I've never seen those numbers in my life, and it seems like all you guys care about is my life getting ruined. I'm gonna be serious. So you guys wait until I find out that Grace isn't real, and then you guys wanna spam my Cash App with hundreds of dollars? That would have been nice to get prior to all this. This is all f***ed up now.
If I were to speculate, I'd guess he's lying about getting that much money overnight, or at least the trolls that sent the money will wait until Daniel spend it and then refund it. I'm not really sure if that can be done on Cash App in the same way it can be done on PayPal, but in all honesty, it's not impossible that Daniel is so out of touch and entitled that he's actually complaining about not getting the money earlier or something. A few moments later, he claims he'd made $100 from his music sales. The money, imaginary or otherwise, immediately got to Daniel's head as he began talking like a business mogul immediately.
Alright, so I'm buying $19 in CrowdStrike stock. Even with all the transactions I literally just did, I still have $100. I'm gonna go shopping.
What's strange is he keeps changing the amount he supposedly profited, ranging anywhere from the original claim of $700 all the way down to a measly $15. He's either actually forgetting what he initially said he got, or is voluntarily lowering the number in fear that people will stop sending money if he overplays his rich celebrity LARP. If that is his intention, he simply cannot contain himself as he proceeds to broadcast all the frivolous things he's planning to splurge on.
Okay, so I am thinking about going to the movie theater now because I got $50. So if I spend 20, I can save 30.
I'm glad Daniel is ahead of state. He has pretty sound economic principles going on. In the meantime, the trolls were getting busy, roping Daniel into yet another delusion, this time of being in a $3 million contract with a record label called Paper Route, supposedly due to someone from past management signing the contract for him. Oddly enough, he mixes the lies the trolls tell him with lies he comes up with on his own, as he claims the person who was briefly his cellmate in one of his previous arrests was also affiliated with Paper Route and immediately recognized who he was. Continuing to inadvertently expose himself, Daniel reveals that after interactions with Grace impersonators, he's been looking for her OnlyFans account.
I've heard rumors that Grace Vanderwall has an OnlyFans account. I've never found her OnlyFans account, though. I've heard a rumor that Grace's OnlyFans account was because she was supposed to be doing the movies with me, and she had no one to do it with.
He's also given up going to Kansas and is instead planning to go to Denver, where the Paper Route headquarters is supposedly located, presumably so he can collect his $3 million payout. Before the end of the 27th, he makes the mistake of mentioning the accursed Akron Goblin.
So apparently there was also a guy involved in past management named Cryax, and he's pretty famous on YouTube. He's a YouTube villain, I should say, and easily manipulated. So apparently Cryax is the one that was leaking the news after apparently the Vanderwalls did the investigation.
Just imagine a collaboration or feud between these two. Another great clip from this particular run of TikTok posts is when he tells a story about having lost a $50 Airbnb gift card and now has to make not $50, but $200 so he can turn a profit, of course. It's very funny how he thinks that profit just means whenever he gets extra money for no reason. Later on, he starts talking about the Discord server and the subreddit about him being in a 3-day-long civil war. The schizo lore he gives for it is absolutely nonsensical drivel, not worth listening to, but he eventually connects it with his never-ending obsession with the Vanderwall family, explaining that the only reason they won't send him video verification to prove they aren't impersonators is because they're afraid it might leak to one of those groups. I should make a note that it's at this point Daniel coins another addition to his vocabulary, suppositively, which I take it he considers a very fancy word since he uses it about 100 times throughout these posts.
Suppositively.
In regards to his financial issues, he says this.
When I was in the mental hospital in Las Vegas, the mental hospital told me that I should be making $1,000 a day with my current fan base at $20 a person, because on average I get 500 to 600 views an hour. If you do the mathematics, that's $20 if I were to do per person for like a Zoom or videos or whatever, times 600. That is how much I could be making if I did the mathematics.
Not sure that math really checks out. You know a thought is about to be really articulate and sensible when it begins with, "They told me in the mental hospital." The 28th is a busy day for Dan's community page. In a post, he says, "A guy walked up to me in what looked to be a Family Guy mask, holding a police flashlight, threatening that he was in the Illuminati and that he was watching my every move and was going to kill me." While this absolutely sounds like what a Larson troll would do, Daniel plays it up on purpose so that he could ask for donations for the weekend immediately after. On the same day, Danderson plays the piano. Notably, he does his best to emulate the body language of someone who actually knows how to play and is really cooking, all while he's just picking out random notes to play. It seems whatever setup he managed to put together so we'd have a place to sleep and food regularly was coming to an end, as he claims the fans started once again contacting the establishments he was frequenting and informing them of his dastardly deeds. He acts quite stressed out about this and asks for donations to leave New York City and go to Colorado. However, just a few posts later, he can be seen eating a comedically large lollipop-looking snack. A few more posts go by and we can see Daniel getting upset over how much he's craving a can of Monster. He's literally me, for real. It's on the 29th that his stay at what appears to be a mall comes to an end, and after being asked by some security guards not to record and follow them somewhere, he says something very strange.
Alright, so I'm going to need an extra $100. I got fully doxxed. There was a school bus or something that let out 40 to 50 middle school students. Every single one of them knew who I was, had me on camera, and I'm going to have to be inside for the next couple hours for my own safety. The trolls, the middle school students from the school bus have notified the security, told them lies about me, all this stuff, trying to frame me. So I do have to leave this location, so I am going to need $100 to be able to do so.
Guys, do not leave me alone and stop taking videos of me. I will have to call the police.
Apparently, these same teenagers also followed him to his motel and told the security there, who promptly banned him. Before the month's end, Daniel expresses his concern and fear that another war will take place.
Everything is so hectic right now. I think there's going to be another multi-year long Daniel Larson subreddit, the Daniel Larson Discord, civil war. You guys better be prepared for the nuke.
I like how, despite having access to the subreddit, in which many people don't even try to hide the fact that they think Daniel is just a crazy, homeless pedophile, he still manages to contextualize himself as some kind of Helen of Troy figure, and that they'll be fighting over him. The next few days are blurry insofar as Daniel's whereabouts, but the little I could find shows Daniel asking for money to buy new clothes after slipping and falling in the rain, and him apparently finding employment.
Hey everybody, so you guys remember when I said I got my new job?
Yeah.
I work at Planet Fitness, baby! Revenge!
Money coming.
Eventually, in early May, it seems Daniel figures out that the people pushing this narrative that there's a war and riots happening over him is a joke, and makes a post to his YouTube community deriding it. Hilariously, this just prompts the subreddit to push it even harder, commenting things like, "It's his schizophrenia making him think they are fake. Little does he know, I'm at the Capitol building protesting right now as I type this. Shit on CNN and Daniel saying it's fake. There's already 9 people that have been injured and have been taken to the hospital in Los Angeles because of the allegations against you, Daniel. How many more does it take before you take accountability for what you've done?" On the same day as he posted that to his community, he posted a picture of himself getting some ice cream at the Hard Rock Cafe, supposedly after doing a concert. Over the next few days, he gets banned from the Penn Station in Manhattan, reiterates how upset he is at people joking about riots, and posts himself looking like an absolute beauty and a rat. A few days go by without much worth mentioning happening on Daniel's end, but on the subreddit, a brand new bombshell was about to drop. To celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the original May 6th incident, wherein Daniel exposed himself to about 500 people while live on TikTok before being banned, Flexburger, the architect of the incident, decided to do an AMA on the subreddit. Usually, the AMAs with Daniel himself are fruitless because he's not interested in doing anything besides role-playing as a celebrity and won't really cooperate unless you join him. However, the AMA with Flexburger was one of the most illuminating events on the whole saga. saga. When asked about the child seen being pushed onto a bed by Daniel, Flex claimed she was the same girl Daniel was referring to in those tweets. Another user brought up the confusing timeline of events that led up to the May 6th incident, since Daniel had already declared war on Flex by the time Flex supposedly talked him into doing it. However, Flex explained the following. I went by the name Josh as his manager. I told him that Flexburger was this evil guy hacking all of his accounts and exposing him. He had no clue it was me. When he was making all of those videos with the headset on talking about me, I was on the phone with him. He had no clue that Flexburger was me the whole time. Pretty funny stuff. It's funny that Daniel calling people hackers gets mentioned here because Flex revealed that he only became one of Daniel's managers because after just a few conversations with him, he voluntarily gave Flex his password and asked him to manage his YouTube channel. Another user asked Flex to get back into the fold and convinced Daniel to go back to Colorado so that he'd get proper housing. According to him, he'd love to do so, but his new management gatekeeps him and tells him to block anyone not in their immediate circle. When asked about those who defended Daniel, Flex responded, "The people on TikTok that defend him constantly drive me insane." I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but this subreddit was actually mostly pro-Daniel around up until about a year ago or so. When I was his manager, I tried telling everyone that Daniel was a horrible person, but no one believed me. People like Papa Gut would defend him just because he has a mental disability. Never seen someone get away with this much. I'm glad the majority of the general public is finally coming to an agreement that Daniel is a creep. It took far too long. I found it disturbing how much of a pathological liar he is and how manipulative he can be. I talked to JP, one of his old caretakers, and he agreed with me and said the exact same. For example, during the Likey meltdown, you can hear him be like, "JP threatened to kill me. JP forced me to do all of this." Yet JP was in another room, having no clue what was going on. The lies got so bad, I remember a few times when I would confront him about the search history, he'd try and tell me the Denver police told him to look that up. We had a group of around 10 different people submitting tips with evidence of screenshots and videos to various sex offender hotlines and police stations in Denver. We had such illegal stuff from him. He sent his to minors as a sexting buddy countless times, even if they said they were like 14. Aurora police didn't care. We just wanted to report criminal activity, but they said that we had to be the parents of the underage kids he was messaging. Denver police at least made a little bit of an effort. They showed up to meet with him in a King Soopers parking lot. I was on the phone with him a few minutes before he hung up and heard him using his plot armor to his advantage, talking about, "Oh, I'm autistic. I didn't know better. I have a disability. I'm in disability services. I've been a victim of manipulation online," and they changed the text. Denver police fell for it and he got off the hook. It physically hurt me to look at his search history. Every day I'd catch him Googling CP-related searches at 4 in the morning Denver time. Whenever I'd confront him about it, he would either lie or have a huge meltdown and start breaking stuff. Deep fakes of various little girls on both his old laptop from Denver and phone. Looking up a lot of illegal stuff somehow didn't put him on a watch list. Attached to that last bit were a couple of links, one of which was Flex scrolling through the posts Daniel had saved in his Instagram account, which were full of pictures of child models. And another, a text message exchange between the two has Daniel explicitly admitting to having watched CP and texting minors inappropriately with full knowledge. Flex also said that Daniel is more aware than people think. The example he gives is the constant Vanderwall impersonators. In Flex's opinion, Daniel knows them to be fake but doesn't care, as long as he has someone to exchange inappropriate messages with. Besides badly wanting it to be true, Daniel's autism is part of why he believes himself to be a celebrity, since people constantly come up to him and recognize him. He's just unable to tell the difference between an actual celebrity and whatever he is. After having brought up how his time in Daniel's management was seen by the people following the Larson verse online, Flex defended himself against some of the accusations that he was malicious as a manager, saying the following. When he left Denver to hitch a ride on a train and ended up stranded in San Francisco for a few days, Papa Gut made a video blaming me, saying that I forced him to do it. Me and a couple of others basically had to direct an autistic man around the streets of Oakland while he was having a panic attack every 5 minutes. We called the police 5 times that night, and on the last try, they finally found Daniel and took him to a mental hospital. Seriously thought Daniel was going to die, and it was all going to be my fault. Even though it wasn't, it was Daniel's own dumb decision. When someone asked him about the claims Papa Gut had made about Flex stealing money from Daniel's donations, he said Daniel wanted to set up a way to get paid for his social media so he could be on his own, so I helped him. I'll always find that video funny because Papa Gut accuses me of all this crazy stuff, yet shows absolutely zero evidence or proof of anything. Papa Gut is a dumbass who cheated on his wife and still defends Daniel to this day. He said he doubts Daniel is actually a pedo and that the 17 and 22 age gap between Daniel and Grace wasn't inappropriate. Never seen someone go that far to support someone who likes kids. One of the more contentious topics was the accusations Daniel had levied against someone named Ryan. For the most part, no one really gives any credence to the things Daniel says, since he constantly lies, especially when he's trying to make someone he dislikes look bad. However, when it came to these accusations in particular, someone had begun to consider that even if he was lying about who did it, Daniel might have been sexually abused in some way during his stay in disability services. In response to this, Flex said, Daniel's never had sex or been before. I think the day he made that lie up was the day he made all those holes in the walls in the pink room. He all of a sudden started lying to me, trying to make me feel bad, and said he was a victim of assault. I asked more about the story since he had never told it to me before, and things were not lining up at all, and you could clearly tell he was lying. Let's, as a community, stop drawing attention to that lie. His lying about being assaulted for attention pisses me off so bad. Flex also said that Daniel hadn't written his own songs, specifically that he had to do all the writing for one of them. From this, we can presume that all of his other songs also had some kind of third party intervene and do the heavy lifting. User LaneTrain71 asked Flex to elaborate on the experience of being a manager. In particular, how often Daniel texted him, to which he answered, 24/7, never ending. I remember sitting in class with Daniel spamming me, saying there was an emergency, and if I didn't answer, he would fire me. The emergency was that Big Bank Records called him the N-word and was harassing him. Daniel ended up calling 911 and the police showed up. As expected, police were confused and didn't care. It's also in this AMA that we get some unforeseen Daniel early life lore after someone asks Flex to relay what he'd heard from Daniel in regards to the Tennyson Center he used to be in as a kid. He said he liked Tennyson a lot and was really good for him. He said things really went downhill when his grandma died. Daniel moved to Hugo, Colorado with his mom after she split with Travis. She couldn't take care of him anymore because she was paralyzed, and Daniel was an asshole. I asked him about her getting paralyzed. He told me she was stuck on the kitchen floor for a couple of months straight by herself and couldn't get up. I knew that was a lie, so I asked, so she and pissed herself on the floor for a couple of months straight? To which Daniel responded, yes. Soon after, he elaborated on Daniel's upbringing. I believe his parents were definitely not good parents. It's not super hard to see that, especially when looking at Travis. His Facebook page is full of hentai profiles he made with his daughter's names. There's no doubt Daniel grew up in a bad household, but he 100% abused his mom and grandma. I hate the argument on TikTok that we should feel bad for him because of his bad childhood, when he was the abuser the whole time. And beating up your paralyzed mom in a wheelchair and grandma dying of cancer, does it get any worse than that? Straight to hell. There are comments of his mom literally confirming it on a YouTube video and Daniel admitting to it, yet people don't see it. They got into some argument and he hurt his paraplegic mom, which led to him getting arrested and put in foster care. I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but Daniel's mom and dad actually have a restraining order against him. Also, he beat up Bob. Clearly, he loves attacking harmless people. I think it's important to mention that I'm just relaying all of these claims exactly as Flex made them. There could be some leeway here and there. Regardless, as Daniel's lies were being contextualized, someone else brought up all the claims he'd made over the years about having a job. Flex explains that he only had a job once. In 2019, his disability services got him one at a thrift shop. Interestingly enough, while Daniel was good enough at his job that he made some decent money, it was spending the money that was the tough part for him. Almost immediately upon receiving it, he was tricked by an Indian catfish into buying $500 in Visa gift cards and sending the codes, which Daniel did, and just like that, all of his money was gone. Due to his direct involvement with multiple notorious Larsonian incidents, people were asking for details, which Flex happily provided. For example, he gave some background information on the Likey meltdown. What happened was he kept threatening to fire us for confronting him about his illegal searches. So we said okay and left him. Within an hour or two, he came back to us crying, saying he would do anything to get back on the team. I remember being out with friends scrolling through his Likey page, dying of laughter. I literally couldn't believe what I was seeing. I don't know how these videos are real. He was on his laptop because someone got him to throw his phone up to the gods for grace, and obviously his cheap little Android shattered on the concrete. His hair was all spiked up because we kept telling him to take a shower, but he refused, and instead wiped his head all around with a wet paper towel. That about concludes all of the information Flex decided to offer the community through his posts, but before you think his AMA was all bark and no bite, Flex unveiled some of the most egregious troll material ever. For starters, there is the pencil incident, which was rumored to exist months prior to it actually being uploaded, but lo and behold, in the wake of Flex's AMA, it was published in all of its glory. In it, Daniel inserts a pencil, and then jumps around for a bit with it inserted. The next incident to be published was the shower incident, in which Daniel is seen drying himself with a towel while not wearing any clothes despite being visibly dry. In this incident, it's not the video itself that's the main source of horror, but it's the context. Apparently, Daniel sent this to his mom, who replied by saying, "Danny, why the hell did you give me a video of you naked? That was not cool. I'm disappointed in you. Why did you do that? I'm your mother." To which Daniel responded, "Sorry, that was a hacker. My phone gets hacked every now and then. Just to remind you, I get hacked. I've never seen that photo in my life." Then who took it? The elf living in your house? In the middle of these reveals, an unreleased song of his called Wild Hearts was also leaked, but we all know that's not what we're here for. Next up is the bottle incident, which Flex took his sweet time to post, supposedly because he wanted to space out the content to keep the community entertained. However, he did eventually post it, and it's not something that any human being should suffer to witness. Fortunately, that was the full extent of the dreaded May 2023 leaks, as far as I can tell, and we get back to the regularly scheduled Larson activity at this point. On the 7th, a few fans record themselves following Daniel Daniel around for a bit as he skulks around in a mall, and they give him a few basic hygiene items, which purposefully include a toothbrush. A day later, Daniel goes live and is in the company of none other than Michael Quinn, who now seems to be actively schmoozing Daniel up, which meant that a collab with the world of t-shirts was imminent. But before that could happen, something else did. On the 9th, he posted these TikToks.
I don't really like how many people are doxing conversations. Also, the labels threatening me to be fired in 24 hours if I can't get that to stop. Just to let everyone know, the text message that got leaked on the subreddit earlier, I blocked that person.
Can you guess what he's talking about here? Of course, he's once again soliciting all kinds of inappropriate things with catfishes and comparing himself to a cow being milked, as one does. He also confesses to loving the smell of, pee. This doesn't even put a dent in Michael Quinn's plans though, since on the 10th, the Clash of the Titans finally takes place in the Big Apple.
Daniel, say hello. This is Joshua Block. Let's see you shake hands. Shake hands, guys. Hey, Daniel. Good to see you, buddy. How you feeling? What's it like to meet Josh in person?
It's at this point that we get to witness how different Daniel is from someone like Josh, as even during the live stream, Josh can be seen looking away from the phone and talking in a relatively normal tone. Meanwhile, Daniel is in the background tweaking for the entirety of the meetup, and instead of interacting with either of the guys he's with, he eventually starts doing this to get attention.
I always get bored when I'm at beats. It's so good.
Yeah.
At this point, we've sort of established that Michael has a lot to do with instigating the beef between them, but I don't even know how much instigation is even necessary when one of the parties is Daniel Larson. During their meetup, which was supposed to be a peace treaty to squash the beef between them, Daniel begins provoking Josh. Later on, during a stream in which he appears to be slightly drunk, Josh begins mocking this attempt at taunting him, saying Daniel is homeless and has no license to do tours. Around the same time the meetup took place, Daniel had his phone stolen and was forced to post from a computer in a library. Eventually, he did get access to a phone again, supposedly with the money from music sales, and made a new TikTok account. In the following post, he suggests he's no longer in New York City and that he plans to go to Florida, though without using the train, as he claims Josh got him banned from the station.
You guys are not going to believe this, but last night, somebody called the police on me, and I got a ticket pretty much. I got a fine of $100. So apparently the ticket from last night, the $100 ticket, is a trespass ticket citation. So somebody tried to get me trespassed from the subway station.
On the 16th, Daniel is seen eating a very luxurious dinner in a Manhattan restaurant, and according to an archived post on the subreddit, once the restaurant discovered Daniel was unable to pay, they took his debit card and would only give it back to him once he's paid for the meal. In the wake of this, he claims he got the bill covered, made $80 from his music, gotten $1,175 of debt, and defends himself from the claims that the restaurant took his debit card, though I should note that when he holds up his debit card to prove he still has it, he held it in a way where you can't actually see if it's a debit card or some other kind of card. Daniel has a history of doing things like trying to pay for meals with his Medicaid card, so it wouldn't exactly be surprising if he were trying to play the same trick on the subreddit. Despite his financial issues, he says he's doing better than Michael and Josh, and I take that this explicit call-out was a sign that Daniel's belligerence was rising once again. On the 17th, he destroys his own headphones for whatever reason, starts jogging until he's out of breath, and closes the video off in a very interesting way.
I need to find a f***ing gun.
Apparently, this fit of anger happened because his management had paid for a $200 bus ticket that would take him to Colorado, and he managed to miss it. A day later, he returns to the mall, where he has another altercation with fans.
Leave before I get the f***ing police on you!
While there's plenty of footage of Daniel being generally perturbed by the presence of his fans, the highlight of this incident is when he runs up and punches one of the mall screens in order to appear intimidating to the people following him. These misfortunes don't slow Daniel down whatsoever, as he's still looking to go to Colorado soon to visit Disneyland, which he was tricked into thinking had a franchise in Colorado, and he has some words to say about Michael Quinn and Josh.
Okay, Michael Quinn and World of T-Shirts needs to stop asking me to do a porno with them.
On the 20th, he successfully boards a plane to leave New York City and return to Colorado. Upon returning to his homeland, he claims to have had dinner with Bob, but this not only ends the 2023 travel arc, but also the red shirt arc, as Daniel stops wearing the same red shirt he'd been wearing for probably 3 months at this point. On the 22nd, in a video in which he claims his entire career finances are at an all-time low and on the brink of collapse, he's seen in his new Fortnite skin, the blue jacket. What triggered him to start despairing about his money was the fact that during a live stream that same day, he went to a Panera and ordered some food, knowing he wouldn't wouldn't be able to pay for it, expecting them to allow him to eat for free, which did not happen. Also on the 22nd, he gets accosted by some trolls claiming to be security.
What's up, Daniel?
I'm not allowed to take pictures.
No, they called us. They told us to come here. We're security.
I don't have security.
Here, I'm gonna send it to them.
I'm on the phone with my security right now.
No, we have to send it to them, Daniel.
I'm on the phone with my security.
I'm the security.
No. Please leave. You are not security. No, you're not. I will literally have my security press charges on you. You're not security. You're not security. No, you're not.
Daniel, John Summons sent us here.
John Summons is fake.
No, it's not. Did you call up the Here, hold on, let me call.
Yeah, call.
You want to talk to John Summons?
We're here to protect you, Daniel. We're giving you a presidential escort.
Okay, my management and my record label is asking that you guys
Okay, holy shit.
stop.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. You smell like shit. God, bro. Oh my God.
After some thorough debate on whether they were legit security officers or not, they get Daniel to say what at this point has become one of his many catchphrases.
I will be pressing charges.
After spending way too much time experiencing the hustle and bustle of the big city, Daniel decides to visit the wildlife and relax for a bit. This gives him a lot of clarity, which inspires him to make some radical changes.
I am going to be adding new rules to my fan base. So for the next 5 years, if you do not donate on a regular basis, we will start banning.
This might have something to do with the $500 of credit card debt he was talking about shortly after, but that's just my guess. In one of the more wholesome moments of this entire hell saga, Dan takes a picture with some fans of his. It's very strange to think that despite his delusions preventing him from seeing the exact nature of his fame, he is, on some level, a minor web celebrity. For better or for worse, he's going to be recognized everywhere he goes, probably for the rest of his life. In a less than wholesome turn of events, while going to Haagen-Dazs to charge his phone for free, some fans show up and inform the employees of what he was up to.
John Summons told me to ask you if you've showered anytime recently.
Okay, I'm going to need to ask you guys to leave.
You still smell like poop.
After leaving while doing his best impression of a rich valley girl, according to a Reddit post from someone claiming to have been there while it happened, Daniel punched a woman in the face on his way out, prompting this.
You want a shirt? Tell him to bring it.
Okay, I'm on the phone with
Get out now.
You have a warrant for your arrest.
Holy shit.
You're lying! You liar! Just because I'm f***ing famous! Don't ever take a goddamn picture!
I'm not sure why he decided this was the best moment to drop the gamer word, but I trust Mr. President's wisdom, okay? He always knows when to use it tactically. Immediately after, he walked into a crystal store, wandered all the way to the back of it, kneeled, and started hitting himself in the face, saying he was going to need the paramedics. Based on the incident with Bob in the car, my best guess is he was doing this in part so that he could tell the paramedics he was being attacked and they hit him first. He eventually started throwing around items in the store before also leaving it and wandering off, and starting altercations with other homeless people who happened to be in his path of destruction. Whoever Daniel was on the phone with as he walked around aimlessly managed to calm him down, and in the process of doing that, informed Daniel that he was going to get in trouble for saying the N-word, prompting Daniel to release this video.
Did you all know that I have friends from Africa? So I'm not racist.
He eventually made a larger video addressing the entire incident, neglecting the parts where he was doing things he wasn't supposed to, and focusing exclusively on trolls supposedly harassing him. However, in a video Daniel hadn't recorded himself and looks to have been recorded without his knowledge, some of the fans approached him soon after the incident and asked him to calmly explain what exactly went down. This proved to be an effective strategy as he revealed some details that he deliberately excluded from his own later retelling of the story.
We had two people in the area that yelled, "We have guns." I literally screamed, "I will murder everybody in this area."
Daniel, you can't be saying that stuff, man.
But here's the thing. What am I supposed to do if somebody says they have a gun?
I mean,
I had to, you see what I mean?
That's either wrong to say that.
I had to protect myself.
Mind you, in the video of the incident we have, I'm pretty sure no one says they have guns, so I have no idea what he's talking about here. This is probably footage of the threat Daniel claims he made.
Okay, Columbia Records needs to get me security ASAP, right this minute, to my location, or I will get a gun and start killing people. I just got threatened with a gun in public.
From Daniel's uploads to his YouTube account, we can infer Bob is scrambling to get him affordable housing, though now this will probably have to be done through conventional means as opposed to with the help of disability services due to Daniel's past troubles with them. Soon after, he posts a video lamenting his financial situation, complaining that he doesn't get any donations anymore, and because of that he can't afford housing, right after saying he needs donations so he can go to the Rockies game. Eventually, he admits that Bob just doesn't want to be involved anymore, which confirms that most of the things he's been saying about Bob are extrapolated from casual conversations he has with him over the phone, as opposed to Bob actively helping him out. After asking for donations to his Cash App to pay for his $50 phone bill, Daniel gets himself drunk. I say that tentatively though because he doesn't actually seem to be that drunk. I'd venture to say he drank something alcoholic and then decided to act like an inbred crossing of Mr. Bean and Pee Wee Herman because that's his cartoonish understanding of how a person acts when they are drunk.
Oh, what's up, mate? How are you doing today? Oh, nice buddy, nice buddy. Oh, hey, oh.
Around the 30th, someone paid for a cameo video for World of T-shirts about Daniel, and it's absolutely hilarious.
Hey Daniel Larson, I just wanted to let you know I started doing Grace Vanderwall, you fat nose She loves the rhythm of my tism, and I can't wait to tag team with her. Quinn, your fan, call the codes now, your fan base is mine, you smell.
Okay, this message goes to Michael Quinn and World of T-shirts. I am from all of my concerts. So is Grace. You guys are never welcome.
I like how Daniel bans people from his concerts as a punishment, as opposed to setting the National Guard on them like we all know he's capable of. He's a tough but fair ruler. Daniel continues to gaslight his audience about his financial issues and brings back the fake banking app to pretend he has a balance of -2 grand. Once this strategy doesn't work, he tries to make it out as if the money is going to go toward fixing a water leak in Bob's house. After being fed up with the music industry exploiting him, Daniel becomes an experimental filmmaker and uploads a 9-minute video of him just walking in point of view with no sound, titled Daniel Larson Tries to Go on a Walk, but he finds out his backpack got stolen. Of course, I'm kidding about the experimental filmmaker thing, but I have no clue why this video has no audio and is recorded like that. Kind of eerie. Most likely due to the latest World of T-shirts attack, Daniel remembered Cameo existed and decided to make his own account on it as a way to make some money. Immediately after, someone tricked him into saying he loves minors.
Hi Matt, your friends told me you were getting bullied at school for wearing a Minecraft backpack. I know what it's like to be different, and I want to send some birthday love your way. Minecraft is cool, and I love to go mining. I love miners.
Fortunately for Danderson, he was successful in his endeavor to secure housing. And not only that, but he also attended the Colorado Rockies game he was talking about earlier. On the 7th, he's pictured with some fans. All in all, the beginning of June is one of the best times for Daniel in months, and no incidents actually take place during this period. On the 9th, an account called LolCow Designs on YouTube uploaded a YouTube short covering something we haven't really mentioned: Daniel's use of Google Maps. Because of his very dysfunctional relationship with electronics, he doesn't use apps as much as he abuses them with a colossal volume of low-quality input. As previously stated by Flex, Daniel was constantly messaging people, uploading multiple things to multiple different accounts on multiple different platforms at the same time, without any real rhyme or reason. He loves to post, he loves the grind. However, amidst the chaos, we can discern Daniel's behavioral patterns, and they're not good at all. Basically, he uses Google Maps to upload random pictures of himself to whatever place he's in, make complaints about restaurants that don't give him free food, but most importantly, the pictures he probably unknowingly uploads to places like malls and gyms are rife with images of young girls. And you can guess why that is. But much like the May 6th anniversary reveals from Flexburger, none of these discussions managed to affect Daniel, who's more preoccupied with his Spotify.
Whoever keeps hacking my Spotify is not from my music distribution. It's coming from Spotify. So whoever at Spotify is doing that, I will make sure you're jailed for life. You better lawyer up.
On the 13th of June, he says he will be turning himself in on July 5th, but it's unsure what he's planning to turn himself in for. In a stream that came shortly after, he claims he's been framed by disability services, but this isn't related to him turning himself in. Instead, he spends most of the stream talking about how the services made him lose tens of thousands of dollars related to canceling recording sessions, which is definitely another lie. Most likely due to Bob's influence, there is a marked drop in incidents following his return to Denver. On his community page, he gives some slightly credible financial updates, saying he owes Bob about $15,000 and that since Medicaid dropped him, he owes $4,000 in hospital bills. But there's some good news as well. The revenue from Cameo has allowed him to once again try to start making music. Only one thing is distracting him from it now: the Great Chinese War.
Currently, I am asking for your assistance on a very dire matter. The Great Chinese War of 1973 is upon us. We must get our gunches in sync. I personally and professionally want war with the Chinese.
On the 18th, Daniel gets greedy and decides to jack up the price of his Cameo to $800, allegedly because of his legal status. In another post, he says the police showed up, but it doesn't seem like anything really happened as a consequence. A day later, another cache of private text messages Daniel exchanged with people whom he thought to be way too young gets posted to Reddit, and it's mostly more of the same, so I won't bother going through them, with this one exception. Do you know what the G-spot is? Just curious. No, I'm not sure what that is. So basically, it's this spot in your vagina up near the belly button. If you finger it, it makes you squirt 15 feet at 100 miles an hour. Oh my god! What a gentleman. The rest of June is mostly uneventful, with it being explained that him turning himself in was most likely in reference to him being taken by Bob to clear up the outstanding warrants on him in Denver County. Almost unexplainably, he goes to a Flo Rida concert, blames Bob for the delay of his music release, and at the very end of the month, his new track, Merry-Go-Round, with the most unintentionally creepy cover art imaginable, comes out. June was the first good month for Daniel in a very long time, ending up with him regularly sleeping at a motel, finally taking a shower, getting a haircut, and making a little bit of money on his Cameo. On the 2nd of July, he posts to his TikTok claiming Bob threatened him with a 9mm machine gun if Daniel didn't show up to court the next day. He does go to court, and whatever happened there made him very angry as he took to his YouTube community page to make a series of posts threatening to bomb the courthouse. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find the post, but given the things Daniel has said before, it's not hard to believe that he said that. Despite this brief period of erratic behavior, he returned to semi-normalcy soon after, and things continued to be normal for another week. On the 10th, he revealed he'd gotten a dog since, according to him, he could afford it. He's ballin'. However, some of his vigilant followers, one of which is known on YouTube as Goated Minds, knew that Daniel wouldn't be able to properly take care of a dog, who he named Music, since he was still just wandering the streets and would only give her water whenever he stopped at a restaurant or cafe, and even then it was a lot less than the dog needed since she was an adult German Shepherd. Daniel himself acknowledged his dog was struggling to eat, possibly because he was trying to feed her whipped cream and nachos all day. Most importantly, there was a real danger Daniel would hurt it during one of his fits of rage, which was really concerning. Goated Minds, along with a group called SEAL Team 6, made a big effort to pinpoint where Daniel was based on his TikTok posts, eventually succeeding in taking the dog back to the Longmont Humane Society. I will say the name SEAL Team 6 is pretty funny, but I wish it was the actual SEAL Team 6. I like to imagine the United States military deploying one of the deadliest groups ever assembled to deal with Daniel Larson. On July 11th, a girl called Ween, known on Reddit as Lover of Mom 69, found the restaurant Daniel was at, asked him to take the dog outside for a little bit, and when Daniel conceded, they put the dog in their car and drove off. Soon after, proof of Music's rescue was posted to Reddit, with the dog seen slurping extensive amounts of water, probably due to being very thirsty after their stay with Daniel. No one knew how Daniel would react to the dog napping, as he put it, with many even speculating he'd just move on from it nonchalantly like he'd done with many other things in the past. I honestly don't think anyone expected what was actually about to happen. On the 11th of July, things were silent. Too silent. Suddenly, he became active on his community page, revealing he'd just gotten out of police custody and had received new criminal charges. Eventually, he calmed down enough to start explaining his side of things. A combination of self-injurious behavior and the Walmart security throwing me to the ground. I hit my head on the ground at the Walmart by security, and they were sitting right on my knee, so when they pinned me down, the guy pinned basically put his knee on my head, not my neck or anything, but on my head. Along with this post came an image of Daniel with one side of his face being extremely swollen. His explanations, which have been archived to the wiki, continued. When she drove off, I basically started freaking out. I started panicking, I started hyperventilating to where I felt like I couldn't breathe because I was hyperventilating so much that I just couldn't speak. My phone was also dead at the time, so I couldn't call security. All I could think about was trying to go across the parking lot to where the Walmart was, and I walked in there, saying my dog got dog-napped. At that point in time, the security asked me to leave. I refuse, and I say, call the police. Like I said, creating a scene. About 50% of people in the checkout area start rushing over to where I am and start crawling me pretty much, and I lash out. That's a long story short of what happened. I don't know if anybody got anything on camera because of my popularity. The police said that there was no physical assault involved other than just a reaction out of fear. I had more than the right because I did nothing, and yet they were instigating the situation, so I had the right to protect myself. At that point, the stupid Walmart decides that they're going to press charges of $2,000 of criminal mischief on purpose because they know I'm a celebrity. They want all my fucking money, so they took it as high as they could go. They put me in protective custody at that time, and instead of going to jail, they took me to the hospital because I had injuries at that time. Charges were pressed on the person who was the dog napper. In a phone call he made shortly after making the community post, he adds some detail to what he was doing at Walmart.
So I go over to the gift card section, and if you know the gift cards, I'm start picking them off one at a time, dropping them on the floor. Oh.
More information was being shared on the subreddit. Apparently, one of the people who pinned him down was a biker, not a security guard, and Daniel didn't just defend himself as he put it, but took a swing at a security guard, pushed a cart at an employee, punched a lottery machine, knocked over shelf items, and went to town on the gift cards, as he did mention in the call. The YouTube post continued erratic as ever. World of T-shirts is in connection with the dog napping situation. I am innocent. I just called 911 and said I have a bomb in hopes of getting my family to safety and get security and safe. I will get this heard in Supreme Court. Fuck the entire Vanderwall family. My life in Bob's house is in danger. Bob bought me a gun today. I'm about to risk my life. I will now attack on sight. His community meltdown was packaged with equally disturbed video uploads.
Until you guys stop harassing, I'm ending my goddamn career. My mentor Bob, my entire family, is now being targeted too because of you guys, you little pieces of shit. So I'm done. I'm ending my career. F the record label. F my entertainment manager. And f every f***ing security company and f all police officers. I'm gonna go drop a bomb. I ain't f***ing lying about shit. Bob, I need you to go live right now. I need you to make a social media account and put it out there right f***ing now that I am not mine, or I will kill you as well. My entire family is now famous. All of our houses have been doxxed. We are homeless, and my fans are doxing, getting criminal charges on us that are all false. We will take this all the way to f***ing Supreme Court. I am done, and I will not stop until the White House is blown up. So I just called 911, and I just literally just screamed, I have a bomb, on the 911 number, and randomly hung up in hopes to get this situation heard and to get my family the rights that they deserve.
Eventually, he goes live on YouTube while talking to an EMT, and though I won't show it here since nothing in it is unusually relevant, and it's almost 50 minutes long, Daniel communicates noticeably better. Many have said this, but it's absolutely true that Daniel can be a lot less belligerent when he knows it's important. He doesn't come across as a freak. Unfortunately for the Larsonian community at the time, the footage of the incident was being withheld from the public. The 12th of July is markedly silent as Daniel is in a psych ward on hold. On the 13th, thanks once again to Flexburger, a voicemail left for him by Daniel is uploaded to the subreddit.
I just wanted to let you know that I put in a request so you can be able to call me and get updates on the progress of my discharge and the, progress summary.
As you can probably tell from the way he's speaking, he's medicated, and for the first time, he sounds normal. I mean, not completely normal. I don't think that was ever an option for Dan, but it's almost like the layer of frantic delusion that guides his every utterance isn't there, even if just for a moment. The next week is completely radio silent on Daniel's end as he remains in the psych ward. On the 19th, he's released, much to the general chagrin of the Larsonian community, much of whom thought he belonged in an institution permanently. As soon as he's out of the ward, he's back to regularly scheduled programming, and it seems like not much has changed. He announces his plans to visit Hawaii and Alaska, go to college, and recycle cans for money, which is appropriate even if poorly timed. This would have been way more helpful a few months prior when he was terribly homeless. As of the moment he posted this, based on how many reviews had been left on his Cameo page, a conservative estimate of his earnings is over $3 grand. According to Daniel, whatever the exact court case that he was dealing with after the Walmart incident, he won during his stay at the psych ward. Besides looking healthier physically and less emaciated, Daniel also developed a skepticism of people coming up to him and claiming to be security, recording and posting an entire encounter he had with some followers who tried to run that on him. On the 22nd, Daniel gets trespassed from the Glenwood Springs Hotel due to someone calling the police up and telling them Daniel was filming kids. In yet another apparent development in Daniel's general awareness, he mentions that he would now begin to delay his posts so that people would no longer be able to pinpoint his exact location live. I said the word apparent because it's just that. Just a day later, he's back in full force and completely out of his mind again. On his community page, he brings up the dog napping incident again and begins threatening to kill people texting him about it, claiming he had just received an international threat from a man named Saddam. Despite his acquired skepticism towards security impersonators, he's still completely vulnerable to Grace impersonators, since, based on his posts, one of them has him convinced that the Taliban is cooperating with Jacob Sartorius to dox and assassinate him. During this flurry of posts, he may or may not have been hacked, since randomly he posts about wanting to do something very bad with that girl from the bed video, along with a bunch of other celebrities. He eventually circles back to the dog napping and accuses Goated Minds of also having stolen World of T-Shirt's dog, alerting the Larsonian community to the very real dangers of dog trafficking rings. As people noticed, Daniel was particularly high-strung at that moment and engaging with pretty much anything he saw online. People decided to start faking tweets from the FBI account with Inspect Element, saying they were investigating Daniel. All of this commotion pushes him to come extremely close to calling Bob the gamer word, though I'm not really sure why, since Bob doesn't have anything to do with this. The Inspect Element tweets graduate to faking posts straight from Joe Biden, who I imagine Daniel already hates since he's impersonating the one true president. Biden's tweet said, "Russia, please don't nuke us. We will send Daniel Larson to you. Please. The citizens of Colorado are good people." They even fake a news article saying North Korea shot 4 missiles at northern Colorado, targeting Daniel. But even that's not enough to get Daniel to realize he's being messed with, since his response is to offer Josh to the North Korean government in exchange for being spared. After sending some of the fake screenshots to Bob, Daniel messages him saying, "Burn in hell. Have fun. I hope you die now." To which Bob replies, "Assume that what you asked for has happened. Consider me dead. Quit calling and quit posting about some Bob." As was demonstrated by the Likey meltdown, the only thing that makes Daniel reconsider whatever he's doing is the prospect of being abandoned and not getting attention. As soon as Bob says that, Daniel stops and asks him if he has any social media to verify whether the things he'd been seeing online are real. Bob confirms he has no social media account, and it's at this point where it'd be fitting for Daniel to apologize, right? Well, instead of doing that, his next post says, "I'm heartbroken because of what Bob is doing." While Daniel was sticking to posting to his community page instead of going live or making videos so that people wouldn't dox his location, a fan of his happened to be driving by as he was walking around that night making the posts.
It's actually Daniel Larson. Holy shit. Yo, bro. Are you serious? Yo, bro, I'm a big fan. No, thank you. You don't? I'm a really big fan. Can I shake your hand? I'll point the camera away.
Yeah, just don't show my location
I
because
will never show your location.
Grace Vanderwall just got arrested.
Oh
like no joke.
Grace Vanderwall got arrested.
Vanderwall got arrested.
Holy shit.
The FBI is after me.
The FBI?
Because of a threat that I made because I'm not getting
Grace Vanderwall. She's in prison. We need
Stop.
Free Grace. What's going on?
His frantic posting, and with it, his frantic lying, continues to ravage his community page, as he claimed he upped the price of his cameos because no one was buying them due to them being too cheap. Flawless logic. The trolls continue to torment Daniel relentlessly, and in one of the funniest turns of events in this story so far, one of them gets his number and sends him this message. "I banged Grace so good while you were walking to the 7-Eleven. I got her to fall in love with me." The attached image, which looks AI generated, is a shirtless and extremely ripped Jacob Sartorius. Daniel posted to his community with the subtitle, "Explain this." Honestly, it doesn't get much better than that.
We weren't moving and getting things done fast enough, so Grace ended up having sex with Jacob Sartorius, and Grace is now pregnant. I was supposed to get it back in housing the first week after I got back to Colorado from New York City. The truth is, I stopped looking for housing the night after I found out Jacob was involved. I got all these new criminal charges on me since I've been back in Colorado to take revenge on Jacob for what he's done.
He briefly breaks up the insanity streak to reveal that he's going to the hospital again to check up on his toe, which he believes is broken. A few posts later, he tragically reveals that while he was in the mental hospital, the staff tried to explain to him that he was extremely delusional, particularly when it came to the topic of Grace Vanderwall. Unfortunately, to no avail, as he just became frustrated the staff wouldn't do what he was asking them to. After finishing his daily series of community posts, he closes it off with an extremely ominous woke with this nice picture attached to it. The timeline is a bit blurry here due to how close set the incidents are, but I'll try to keep it organized. Around the same time, on the 26th, Daniel posts to his community explaining that during a storm, he tried taking shelter at a gas station, at which point, according to him, 2 people entered it after him and started telling him to do something in a menacing way. I don't know what exactly went down, but a scuffle began, and during it, Daniel grabbed someone's throat and pushed him to the ground. While this confrontation took place, Daniel was on a phone call with someone he referred to as his assistant, screaming for help until his phone battery died on him. After this incident, he made a few videos.
I broke a gas station window with a rock.
In other posts, he claimed his phone charger and backpack got stolen during the fight, and now he only had $3 to his name. Apparently, the broken window got him another criminal mischief charge for the destruction of private property, which he shows in his community tab. At around this time, a YouTube channel called the Daniel Larson Curator established contact with a person who claimed to be a former caretaker of Daniel's. In their conversations, this person suggested that Daniel behaved in sexually inappropriate ways to other disabled people who were living with him, and added that he even tried to do inappropriate things to the caretaker's dog. Besides claiming almost $5 grand worth of damage to the house's drywall, the alleged caretaker said that he refused to take any medication and would only eat mac and cheese. While the contents of this call and the credibility of the person claiming to be Daniel's former caretaker are all dubious, we actually do have evidence for the mac and cheese thing. While it wasn't included in the previous video about Daniel due to the sheer volume of incidents, this is a golden piece of Larsonian history, which I'll let you experience for yourself.
I'm going to now ask my care provider if I could get macaroni and cheese, if that's all we can have in this house. This tastes like cow piss. Literal fucking cow piss. I want to know who the put jalapenos in this. Holy my mouth is on fire. Holy I know why this tastes different. It's got something in it that's like sour as well. And if you look, it's got like little things in it. I don't know what it is. Because it just tastes so fucking bad, and it's been sitting here for like about an hour now, and I've never thought that I would be this angry to where I would be putting this fucking shit all over the fucking media. But guess what? It's starting to affect my family and my girlfriend, and I'm not gonna put up with this. There, fucking asshole. Put that all the way into the trash.
As you can tell from the video, the man is serious about his mac and cheese. I suppose this is why he serially dines and dashes as opposed to just eating whatever slop he gets for free. Despite being a homeless schizo, our president has the sensitive taste of a chef and connoisseur. Well, for Kraft mac and cheese anyway. Ultimately, the supposed caretaker was never verified and failed to provide any unforeseen Larson footage. There is the very long shot that the caretaker was the real deal and chose not to verify his identity because, in giving the curator all of that info, he was violating the privacy of the patients he was caring for, so verifying who he was could get him in legal trouble. However, it's much likelier that this person was a troll who managed to fool the curator and a good part of the community. I'm not sure how the next footage I'll play came to light exactly, but it's a conversation between Daniel and Bob that Daniel secretly recorded while Bob was driving. There are some really funny moments in this too as they discuss the Jacob Sartorius situation.
And I'm sorry about the recording studio getting canceled. I'm sorry. But I don't know who did it.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Sagittarius or whatever his name did it.
It's Jacob Sartorius.
Big dick muscle man.
Okay, you just pissed me off.
However, despite the occasional funny utterance from the duo, it's mostly depressing as we can see that Bob has capitulated to the Vanderwall LARPing and plays along the delusions of superstardom while Daniel verbally browbeats him for the entirety of the conversation.
We don't have the money right now to just keep blowing it on things.
That's why we've kept buying these cheaper phones.
And we keep messing up with all these stupid plans.
Every time you would have busted a regular phone, it would have cost you $300 or $400.
And that's my fault, and I take the blame for it. But the real reason, as we know, is we get in arguments over Grace and the label and how we're doing things, and I guess that's my fault too. But it's my life, and if I want to do it a certain way, if I want to have say, I want to have say. So I guess we're both equal. But I'm sorry that you're blaming yourself. I really am.
I'm to blame for everything.
No,
do you want to take
I never said that. And that's the thing that I don't understand, is you're so stubborn. Like I was saying, You always think that other things is your fault, and when I say it's not, you don't want to move on.
And then we come back around and you say, well, you caused the problem with Grace. You probably caused the problem with the label.
And it's because we were both working together in booking the recording studio sessions.
Yes.
And the label wanted it done faster. And I was trying to do that. I remember calling you up almost every day, talking to you about it.
For 5 minutes, and I'd say, let's do it, and you'd say, oh no, I gotta go.
That's because the label messages me getting upset about time frames. And then I call you back after.
Nope. There's where we have the problem. You don't call me back.
I call you back the next day.
Or 2 days, 3 days later.
But
I say, let's do it. I say, okay. When I'm
But
home,
still,
I
I mean, I'm busy. I'm
Okay,
busy.
and I'm not?
I'm busy trying to sort other things out, like my fucking homeless life.
Okay.
You know, I also had to deal with Grace being upset. And, of course, now Jacob Sartorius and her issue with him. And then we're arguing about it because you're like, Grace should have been here in Denver already.
No.
Yes, you said... Hold on. Hold on.
You hold on, because you're changing my words. I said, how many times has she promised to be here? And she's never
Exactly.
shown up. That's not that I'm saying she should have been here.
Well, that kind of is.
If she said she was going to be all the time, she said she
Exactly.
was coming.
She should
then
be
she
here.
should have been.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm sorry that she didn't own up to her word. Are you calm now? And have we talked about everything that we need to talk about?
Yeah.
All right.
We need to do is get the phone working.
Okay.
This is probably the most we've ever gotten to look directly into the true nature of Daniel and Bob's relationship, as it shows the kind of psychological warfare and doublespeak Daniel targets the old man with. If there were still any doubts about Daniel being the guilty party in their interactions, this recording erased all of them permanently. From what people have said about it, it seems Daniel recorded and showed this to people as if it made him look good. But as far as I'm concerned, this just shows how aware and manipulative he can be when he wants to be. On the 28th, a couple of new TikTok posts were made where Daniel makes a more detailed confession.
I sent unsolicited pictures of myself naked to Grace when she was a minor and to other minors. I also jacked off in bathrooms and parks. This message was told for me to make by the FBI, and I have to make this video if I am going to have further contact with the Vanderwall family and date. I took pictures of my butthole and sent that to Grace and other celebrities at the time. I also took a water bottle one time and stuck that up my asshole. I am a pedophile.
But just because he's being brutally honest in one area doesn't mean the delusions have ended. They've simply migrated. In other posts, he's under the impression he's friends with Oprah and her daughter. Next up is the return of Daniel's paranoia as he makes a few uploads while in the dark in the middle of a wooded area in a park somewhere, with titles like, I could kinda hear the entire conversation they were having about me. Daniel continued to be completely unwilling to agree to any disability housing arrangement since it would mean giving up constant access to social media and contact with fans, which he is addicted to. As a consequence, he had to figure out how to continue living while homeless, which meant he had to deal with being exposed to the elements. On the 1st of August, he records a video to show his followers what the thunderstorm from the night prior did to him and his clothes because he's completely soaked. Probably the closest thing he's had to a shower in weeks though, so not all that bad. He also informs his audience that July in Colorado is a free bus and train month, and now that it was over, he was going to take another financial hit. To adjust for this, he hosts a fan meetup at the Colorado Mills Mall, charging $50 per person. Doesn't add up too well considering he follows it up by claiming he's now making $8,000 a week off of his music and Bob. On the same day, he either discovers he's on the New York City registry or someone tricks him into thinking he is, which he reacts to with dismay since despite admitting to being a P word on multiple occasions, he doesn't consider himself an offending one. You see, he's virtuous. He's a virtuous one, guys. He claims Goated Minds blackmailed him into admitting he's a file, though the only thing there's evidence of is Grace impersonators getting him to admit it in order for them to date. Speaking of Goated Minds, Daniel also reveals he's been blacklisted from animal shelters in Colorado, and as far as I'm concerned, that's great news and a sign that Dan's trolls are doing their due diligence to prevent another dog from falling victim to being adopted by him. Later on, we get another set of paranoid schizo videos, and in the same exact park-looking place.
It's like she's doing like an interview for the police department. She She's still here.
Based on the video's title and the things he whispers during the footage, he's hallucinating visions of Grace Vanderwall. Either Daniel's mind is finally crumbling into itself, or this park is actually haunted. On the 3rd of August, and what I presume was an attempt to further curb troll activity, Daniel talks about how a new court order now compels video verification from anyone who contacts him. While there is a brief valley of uneventfulness over on Danderson's end, none other than Jacob Sartorius himself decides to speak on Daniel and the people calling for them to beef.
I see all the comments, trust me. I will not be fighting Daniel Larson. I have nothing against Daniel, and that's about it.
Wise decision. Jacob would never survive the onslaught of the U.S. National Guard. Over the course of the next few days, Daniel breaks an electronic toilet and makes it flush eternally, complains about Bob not financially supporting him and getting an apartment, and then drops this freaking banger.
Hey everyone, so I am so happy to announce that I will be having a Hollywood sex party tonight. Darcy Lynn will be invited. Grace will be invited. Taylor Swift will be invited. Beyonce will be invited. Nicki Minaj is racist. She's not invited. Kanye West is a bitch. He's not invited. Jacob Sartorius is invited. Donald Trump is invited. I would love to have gay sex with him. And Joe Biden is not invited because he's too sleepy. He would probably sleep through the entire thing. Thank you, everyone, to who is invited. And I can't wait to see you all soon. Bye-bye now.
Would you attend Daniel's Hollywood party? Imagine all the peeing and aching. In all seriousness now, he's either embracing his role as a freak and doing his best to be a likable heel personality, or someone is pushing him to make these videos. In his next upload, he talks about covering himself in peanut butter and going to a dog park.
I'm gonna put it all over my nude body. I'm gonna go to the nearest dog park, and I'm gonna have the dogs lick it off.
The third and last entry into these gimmick videos is this.
I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. My boobs are fantastic, and I'm plastic. I can brush my hair.
While he's waiting for his apartment that will never come, he's returned to sleeping at malls, which once again gets him in trouble as a security guard approaches him and asks him to leave, a request he doesn't cooperate with. The guard then informs him that he's been banned from the Colorado Mills properties within a 3-mile radius, probably due to repeated damage to property, which Daniel doesn't take very seriously, as the title of the video he uploaded covering this event is Colorado Mills Security Trolling Daniel Larson saying he's banned from everything for 2 square mile. It's been pointed out before, but Daniel is like a chameleon. He picks up on the language people use when they kick him out, so he can recycle it and use it against others whenever he wants to feel in power. Whenever he threatens to call the police or talks about banning people, that's him thinking that if he just talks the same way and uses the same phrases, they'll have the same effect on his ops that it has on him. Evidence of this is in the next video he uploads, in which he bans people who leak his phone number from his concerts. He then attempts to manipulate Grace Vanderwall into showing up to court with him, saying he'll get arrested if she doesn't. On the 17th, he takes a break from his pity party to declare he intends to continue being homeless and not enter a DDRC program because they wouldn't play along with his delusions and weren't okay with him going nuts on his phone all day talking to fake people. Perhaps upon realizing how dire his financial situation was looking, as both the system and Bob were turning their backs on him, he piles on the pity bait and pressure to extort his online followers, doing streams like, "My fans need to buy cameos or I go bankrupt," and "I'm not showing my phone screen until I make 500 in cameos." Usually, people use the word e-begging as an epithet for someone who asks for donations too often and frivolously, but in Daniel's case, he's literally a homeless man begging for cash online, trying to guilt trip his followers into giving him money for doing nothing. In these no-screen videos, he claims that his social security and Google got hacked, and they somehow also got to Bob's bank account and drained all of his life savings. All of those are lies, but it's interesting how Daniel compulsively ropes Bob into everything he does online. To further make people feel sorry for him, he alleged he was being charged $5 grand for trespassing at the subway. I'm not savvy enough to know how true this could be. Maybe that's adding court fees and accrued interest. But regardless, a much better solution than him getting enough donations to pay this debt off is him actually going to jail and ending up in some institution that's going to prevent him from continuing to do what he does. Is that too much to ask? Not satisfied with claiming people are maliciously stalking him due to being a celebrity, he starts claiming that businesses are now perpetrating hate crimes against him, in reference to him permanently being banned from Smashburger after starting an altercation by dumping ice water on the manager.
Businesses are now doing hate crimes on me, so apparently I am banned from Smashburger now, so another boycott. I want everyone to not go to Smashburger.
On the 9th, a YouTube user uploads a video recorded by none other than fellow horror cow Cyrax, sending a message to Daniel, though the audio seems to have been recorded in the nuclear waste of Chernobyl.
What's up, guys? This video is for Daniel Larson. Daniel, first off, man, I want to say that
Imagine having both of these fellas in the same house together, given their respective histories. I wonder what they'd do first, fight or start inappropriately touching each other without consent. Not to pick favorites here, but if this were a competition, Daniel would clear, just saying. On the same day as Cyrax's heartfelt missive, Daniel goes to Panera Bread and gets himself 4 bowls of mac and cheese. Not that I can blame him, it's pretty fire. Notwithstanding, he also orders Taco Bell just to show you how money smart and frugal our president is. He spends the next few days quietly burning away at the money he got his hands on, getting into an Airbnb that's unnecessarily expensive and nice, buying himself his favorite foods, licking mayo off of his dirty fingers, and so on and so forth. The trolls continue to freak about with threatening texts, but since Daniel is currently enjoying his unearned cash, it doesn't really get to him that much. Noticing that their strategy isn't working, they decide to up the ante and start spamming Daniel's motel room with pizza orders. Funnily enough, he claims this cost him $100, which means that when the delivery guy showed up with pizza, instead of saying it was a prank order and to cancel any other orders to his address, he paid for it and ate the pizza. On the 18th, he does an hour-long stream claiming he got kicked out of the motel due to the prank pizza calls, and there are divergent theories about this. It could be said that since the entire stream is completely dark, Daniel is lying and is actually in the motel room as he records it for pity points, or he's just staying there his last night because he's running out of money. Soon after, he posts another video saying he's just gotten himself another room, this time the presidential suite. However, it is noticeable that Daniel is whispering, and the room doesn't look like Daniel Larson lived in it, meaning it's entirely possible he snuck into one of the bedrooms left open by a cleaning lady. But maybe he did indeed spend every last dime of his to pay for the presidential suite. Because his lifestyle was slightly more comfy, he felt a lot less need to constantly be online begging for money, and consequently, his online presence became a bit scant during this period. This wasn't his explanation though, as he said it was due to the police investigating his entire life. Around this time, he had another flight, this time back to New York City, but he released his own ticket number in community posts, and the trolls did him the favor of canceling it. He also had his Cameo account suspended, which effectively cut him off from his source of income, which is pretty worrisome for a guy like Daniel, who depends on it for every cent that enters his bank. Thanks to a tweet from Darkside Flow, a DSP troll, we can see that what had fueled Daniel's rampant spend thrifting was a lump sum of $800 that made its way to him, and by the 20th of August, it was completely gone, and Daniel got back to the streets. Apparently, he spent $200 on the Airbnb and some more money on food during his stay. That leaves about $500 unaccounted for. I wonder what he spent that on. On the 21st, he re-uploads the presidential suite to pretend he's still at the motel, thinking no one would notice. Based on what's visible in the background of his other uploads and the times the videos were made and posted, the subreddit was able to figure out Daniel slept under a bridge that night. He woke up and made a series of posts rambling about going to court, and again, the subreddit verified it and discovered he had no court appointment that day, meaning he was just being deranged again. On the 22nd, the Daniel we all know and not exactly love is fully back in action as he starts to stream while taking a walk. In the chat, people started repeatedly posting "Biden wants you dead" in reference to one of the previous troll campaigns, and Daniel responds in kind.
Biden wants me dead. Biden wants you dead. Biden, like, stop chanting at you assholes.
Initially, he just seems frustrated that people are saying these things, but eventually, he starts responding in the same caliber.
If you keep spamming me, I will give your number to my investigator. I will press charges on you. I will make sure you get the fucking death penalty and you get your head blown off. I will fucking murder you first. You put a gunpoint at me, I will fucking kill you. They're saying that I'm not powerful enough to kill them. I will literally get the help of Biden to fucking kill people. I'm at your location. I have a gun. You're not at my location. And if you do put me at gunpoint, like I said, I've hidden bombs at this park. You will blow up. I really don't play around.
Damn, Daniel, back at it again with the threats to American parkland. It's really funny that his way of threatening people in his chat is saying he has explosives planted in the park where he is. Am I confused, or doesn't that just mean, like, he is the one who's gonna go, right? The next time he's seen after this botched stream is at a Subway looking very distraught. He then objects to the troll's use of the N-word against him, but not because it's a word he doesn't like. It's just because he's not black. This is sort of a contradictory statement considering how many times he's called Bob the N-word. It also appears he's back to looking for deepfake or AI CP since he posts to his community about a supposed sex video between Kanye West and JoJo Siwa. Presumably due to feeling dirty after his illegal goon sesh, he announces he'll be taking a shower, which is probably the third of this year at very best. The shower was not enough to cleanse him of his deep-seated desires, as a day later he's back to making threats, this time saying he's gonna get rid of Bob if the old man doesn't shut out a couple mil. Meanwhile, during one of his streams, Dan starts asking the real dangerous questions.
Who is the Rothschild family? Because I'm being told that they are behind all the trolling.
Daniel's anti-Semitism makes a return, even if for a brief moment. Later on, Daniel starts another stream to talk about his feelings, and it's pretty grim to watch someone this deep in delusion and at their wits' end.
This is pretty much what I do, walk until morning. I have nothing else to do. I'm still getting criticism because Grace isn't in Colorado. She hasn't moved here for me. I'm still being called a liar, and I don't think that's ever going to end. People judge me for her actions now just because I'm famous with her. I don't want to say this about Jacob. I really don't, because I don't want to cause more issues than there already is. I think that Jacob Sartorius is very, very similar to me. Very similar personality, but he has less trauma in his life, less drama. He can barbecue, from my understanding. He knows how to make steaks, from my understanding. I don't even know how to cook. He's pretty much exactly the same as me, just knows more. The disability housing told me that Grace couldn't live there with me. Grace would have to get her own place. Then literally within 2 days, Grace is like, hey, I was out with Jacob, and he's asked me on a date. And I'm like, you better not be going on a date. And she ended up doing that.
In a moment during the stream, he says this, which is rich considering that's exactly what he's done to Bob repeatedly.
If you tell somebody, you know, I don't like it when you do this, I've literally gotten responses like, you know, I'm my own person. I could do whatever the hell I want.
He complains about Bob moments later. Then he tries to force Bob's hand, along with the record label he believes he's signed to give him 30 grand.
Okay, everyone, so I have an update. I am not doing a motel room. I'm not doing any food, nothing, until I have $30,000 in my bank account. $25,000 from the record label and $5,000 for Bob.
Of course, as we all know, this is just an elaborate tantrum, as Daniel doesn't have the resolve, constitution, or even the memory required to do a food strike. He'd probably forget he declared it within half an hour. Reminder, all of this is because he refuses to give up his phone to get housing and instead wants to pay rent to an actual apartment. On the 24th, he gets caught sleeping in a bathroom, and on the 25th, despite nothing having happened in particular, he begins uploading a flurry of videos. The first has him making a series of false claims about his finances, that he gets $300 from Bob every day, that he's been paid $2,000 from Cameo for multiple days in a row, that he's paid $500 a night in the motels he was at. The last one is the most believable, actually, considering how regarded Daniel is about money. To use one of the words he's coined, but he's undoubtedly exaggerating to an extreme amount so that he can LARP as a celebrity living a lavish lifestyle. He closes the video off saying he tried to warn Bob about the hotel rooms, as if Bob had anything to do with the 3-bedroom hotels Daniel decided to pay for. Honestly, right below the sex pest stuff, the most hateable aspect of Daniel is how absurdly incompetent and unaccountable he is with the money he gets. Like, no matter how much help you give him, if he's in control, he will instantly blow it. In that same video, he also says he's in an insurmountable amount of debt that even if he were to get the fictional money his record label owed him, it'd all go to paying off his debt and he wouldn't have any money left afterward. Having explained how dire his financial situation was to his fans, he does some modeling. It's very funny to me to try and imagine how he sees himself. Despite being a psychotic homeless man, he actually thinks he's very much like Jacob Sartorius, some teen social media model. Then he flexes on the haters with approximately $10. Awesome. After a reinvigorating sleep stream, Daniel wakes up ready to seize the day. And so he does. While there's no real activity from the 26th still up on his channel, it's been very effectively archived. One of the first pieces of activity from the day is a freakout.
Idiot! Don't you f***ing see me walking?
As you can see, this was on an Instagram story with a subtitle that indicates it wasn't put up by Daniel, but instead someone else operating his account, possibly management. It's also worth noting that there's no one else visible in the whole video, so he's becoming schizophrenic again. Meanwhile, over on his community tab, he tells an obvious lie while inadvertently revealing what he'd been recently fantasizing about. Daniel's day isn't going too well, though, as it appears Tyrone, Grace's bodyguard and ex-boyfriend, has recently been released from jail and is headed directly to Denver to take Dan out. Adding to his streak of bad luck, no one sent him any cash to buy a $50 lunch at a fancy sit-down restaurant. How cruel of the fans to starve a man to death like that. When someone asked him how much he'd need, he replied with the conservative estimate of $10,000, which is pretty fair if you ask me. The next day initially looked like it'd be better, as it began with Daniel getting himself a nice bowl of mac and cheese for breakfast, but not without begging for donations to help him pay for it. In this endeavor, he seems to have ended up with some surplus, or as he'd put it, made profit, as after his meal, he's seen drinking a Starbucks beverage and a Gatorade. He wasn't allowed to enjoy them for very long though, since people began calling up where he was at to get him kicked out. After this, Daniel posted a couple of videos of him talking about being shot at or hearing gunshots while freaked out.
There's gunshots in the area. Columbia better do their job before I set 100 million bombs on their hell. All of Columbia records are
If I were to guess, this is one of the instances in which someone randomly texted Daniel something about gunshots just in time for him to hear something that sounded like shots in real life, and his insane, suggestible mind just did the rest of the work and filled in the blanks. There was some disconnect with the management at the time, since they seemed to be interested in protecting Daniel's image however that was possible. Because of that, this video was taken down soon after being uploaded. While this meltdown was taking place, something else entirely was going down in the subreddit. A troll collective called Big Gangsta Click uploaded a video they'd gotten from Daniel, where he was, aching himself. I obviously can't show that here, but it's worth noting that based on the screenshots of the chats shown in the same video, this wasn't a situation where trolls tricked him into sending it. On the contrary, it seems the troll was talking about Section 8 housing when Daniel, completely unsolicited, asked, "Have you ever seen me masturbate?" Followed by footage of that. This leak didn't faze him too much though, since he was too busy begging for money and claiming he'd gone bankrupt. The next day has even more leaks of the same nature, but not just any leak you see. In the video leaked on the 28th, which I also can't show for reasons that will be obvious soon, Daniel is seen employing a fleshlight. How did he get a fleshlight, you might ask? Well, if you remember that $500 that mysteriously vanished a couple of weeks ago, turns out Daniel went to the website Adam and Eve, which coincidentally is the same adult toy shop that Chris Chan bought his stuff from, and then he spent $500,000 on that. A man's gotta have his entertainment, I suppose. Look, we all have our urges. Mind you, this thing has been traveling around in Daniel's forlorn backpack going unwashed for weeks. I'm actually surprised that some kind of creature wasn't growing out of it. Regardless, Danderson remains unfazed and gets kicked out of yet another establishment, this time while he streamed with glitched out audio. Last but not least, he embraces the love triangle going on between him, Grace, and Jacob and agrees to be their cook, which is his best attempt at saying the word cuck, I assume.
Grace has admitted to me that she and Jacob have been trolling me all along, and she is in fact pregnant. She will actually give me a chance, and I will become Jacob's, I don't even know how to say it, but it's cock, I think, cook.
Little did anyone know the community would barely have any time to reel in from the most recent incidents before Daniel suffered another one. Over the night of the 28th, Daniel found no rest, despite spending most of the night walking around the streets of Denver, becoming progressively crazier as time went on, and he failed to get a lick of sleep. To compound with his already deteriorated state, right at the crack of dawn, a troll impersonating Grace started sending messages to him, saying a variety of insulting things, including, but not limited to, threats, calling him a cuck and a pedo, and perhaps what really got under Daniel's skin, saying Daniel was going to have sex with Bob. This sent Daniel flying over the edge. The first course of action he took was to break a random place's window, which was shown in one of the hacked Instagram accounts. After the window breaking, he began relaying the conversations to his community tab, wherein he spammed the word stop at the troll. He tries to get the troll to cease fire by saying he's hitting his own face, and also says he's going to kill Beyonce. I'm really unsure of how that plays into the conversation, if it even does. This tactic fails to make the troll relent, so Daniel ups the ante and threatens to do something drastic. I'm not sure why he would think that making that threat would work to stop someone whom he believes to be trying to take his own life in the first place, but it's not my place to question his logic. The troll very politely responds by saying they're gonna have Tyrone make love to Daniel into the grave. As you can see in the messages, Daniel keeps posting emergency for some reason. Daniel simply continues to try more and more things, such as making threats against the White House, the US government at large, Columbia Records, every single police station in the world, didn't know he was ACAB like that, and last but not least, Bob's house. That's a lot of ambition. In order to cope with the stress, Daniel calls one of his managers, Warren, the N-word, which he confesses to the fake Grace. When the troll showed signs that they were ready to back off and leave Daniel be for the time being, he began instigating again, threatening them right back. In a desperate Hail Mary attempt to wrestle control of the situation, he forwarded a screenshot to 911, but as it turns out, they don't accept screenshots to the number. Strangely enough, if you zoom in, he didn't send a print of the threats, which would be fitting. No, Daniel sent the police a print where the Grace troll repeatedly says he's gay for Bob. I guess that's that's his kryptonite. But Daniel doesn't just make community posts, he makes a couple of videos too, such as this lovely piece.
This message is to Grace. Grace is a and a hater, and I will always hate her now because of what she did. And yes, I will bomb the White House. I will bomb every single police station in the entire US. And Grace told me to make this video.
I like how he feels the need to close it off by saying Grace told him to make the video, almost as if he's warding himself just in case some legal agent gets wind of his statements and he gets in trouble. I'm not sure how much of his next video I can actually show given the contents, but basically, Daniel spends 2 minutes hitting himself and headbutting walls as he wails and hopes for Grace's passing. There's even a moment in which he starts violently drooling in his rabid state, and it takes him a few seconds to realize it.
I want her dead. I want her dead.
It's worth noting, while he is indeed hitting himself, he isn't causing that much damage due to how he has his hand. Likewise, we can see that he only headbutts the wooden wall with nothing behind it, but avoids the brick wall because he knows he'd actually hurt himself were he to headbutt it. In other community posts I wasn't able to find archive versions of, he apparently revealed he'd been scratching his leg compulsively as well. He got that dog in him. I'm unsure if these came out before or after the meltdown, but Daniel uploaded a few other things on the 29th. Disillusioned with Grace, he says he pulled out all of the money he had saved in his bank for Grace, although it's hard to tell if he's doing this just because he now hates her due to the things the troll impersonators told him, or if he just got a really good excuse to take out even more money and spend it on useless crap. Another video shows him on a train titled Daniel Larson on his way to meet up with family, and there was a live stream scheduled to happen around the same time, but it never started, so it's permanently stuck in the waiting mode. From what I've gathered, as these things took place, Daniel was communicating with someone claiming to be from the US Secret Service. This person was setting up a meeting with him in real life and asking him to keep any piece of virtual evidence related to the Grace impersonators on his phone as it had become useful. Daniel believes these messages wholeheartedly and all but gloats about his meeting with the agent on the 30th, even though nothing comes of it. Based on the video about him going to meet his family, it's presumed he went to see Bob, which leads to yet another incident on the 21st.
So I wasn't going to film, but since you have a problem with me bringing my phone in the car, now I'm going to film, because that's my legal right. And I guess I will go without dinner now, because you have a problem with me even bringing my phone with me. You are crazy. You are never helpful anymore. All you do is cause issues. So, are we going to get dinner, or are you taking me back to the motel and I'm just gonna not have anything for dinner? And I'm not gonna eat today at all. And I guess I'll starve tonight. So what is it?
Get out!
I'm not gonna do it. Because I have my phone.
Get the f*** out of my car!
Okay, don't grab me.
You want me to break your arm?
If you break my arm,
then get the f*** out of my car!
Okay, then let go of me, If you f***ing hit me, holy where did my phone go? Oh, you are hitting me!
You're hitting me! God damn it!
You hit me first!
Out of my car!
You hit me first! I'm not playing these games with you! You hit me!
No! You hit me repeatedly! Quit hitting me!
You hit me, so I have a right to defend myself!
Get out of my car!
Now where's my phone?
Get open the door and you'll find it!
Where did it go? Where did it go? Where the did it go?
Ow! Get away from my car!
Holy hell! You ran over me!
I'd venture that Bob figured out that Daniel liked to secretly record things with his phone and tried to prevent it. However, any manifestation of distrust towards Dan triggers his shrill-voiced Karen alternate identity, and he begins raving about being called a liar. As you can see, near the end, Daniel accuses Bob of running over his foot, but he doesn't really sound like someone who had just had their foot run over by a car. The video he posted in the aftermath of the incident has him going ballistic in some sort of indoor setting as he starts headbutting things and pretending to cry.
Bob just ran me over with that car. Bob just ran me over. Bob is a he hurt me. He hurt me.
To date, this is the first time we've ever seen Bob aggressive to Daniel, and given how prone Dan is to holding grudges and accusing people of hurting him, if Bob had ever done this before, we would have probably heard about it. Danderson is in shock that Bob has finally had enough of his antics, so he takes to his community tab to express his emotions about the incident, saying that people are trying to put him back in the mental hospital. He does a stream after, calling the police, and can be heard talking to cops during it. Of course, he restructures the whole thing to make himself look like more of a victim, though all it would take is the cops to watch the video he himself had uploaded to see what really happened. It's unknown exactly what the cops did after taking Daniel's testimony, but the motel he was in at the time kicked him out. In another of the streams that followed, Daniel laments himself and says he feels like Bob is disowning him. And soon after, he says he spent all of the money Bob gave him buying new headphones after he broke his $100 pair during the previous incident on the 28th. After leaving the motel, he tries to go to a Denny's, but the trolls call them up and get him trespassed before he can dine and dash them. Additionally, he also claims to have been banned from all Motel 6s in the area. During the night of the 31st, Daniel does a bunch of streams, and in a moment, he accesses his inner zoo.
Woof, woof. Meow.
Funnily enough, no one, not even the people who were watching the stream as it was live, had any idea why he did this. The next day, Daniel begs for money due to Bob cutting ties and no longer financially supporting him. Simultaneously, he sets his minimum payout for his music distribution at 10 grand, though I have no idea what that means, because for that to be a minimum payout, you need to make $10,000. Daniel? Despite his particularly bereft state at this point, he's still trying to get himself into an apartment. I generally get how he can be deluded about things like Grace or his music career, but it's so clearly obvious that the apartment is a pipe dream. I have no idea how he maintains that particular fantasy when he immediately disintegrates any cash he gets once it touches his hands. On the 2nd of September, the fans get a sleep stream outside edition, meaning Daniel didn't find any place to sleep and had to sleep outside on the street. Then he fights reality itself.
It is not okay that people are trying to bring down my career, saying that I'm not famous. It's a bunch of bullshit, and it's really starting to cause issues with my family and me. I don't have mental disabilities like people think just because I post on the internet.
He keeps talking about his family despite not really having one, so I'm guessing this is something he heard some celebrity say in an interview and he's just parroting it. If you've noticed any clinking in the background during some of these clips where he's seen walking, well, that's because Daniel's collecting cans and taking them to the recycling center to get a few bucks. After being hit with 5 prank deliveries in a row, Daniel broke a delivery guy's windshield, and though we don't have footage of the incident itself happening, he did an hour-and-a-half long stream talking about being integrated by the police for it. And yes, he used the word integrated. On the 5th, he gets tricked by yet another Grace providing video verification, which is just a clip of Grace talking taken from elsewhere, and falls for a blatantly false news article saying she got hit by a mega dildo during a show and was severely injured. While the next day is underwhelming, the 7th holds a little more action. Daniel claims he was going to appear in a Law & Order episode, confirms that he has seen and fallen for the joke posts and Reddit claiming to have made riches off of selling his merch, and is once again spamming his community tab. It seems he's finally feeling the consequences of not having Bob to financially support him, as he starts claiming that Bob is forcing him to walk barefoot by not buying him new shoes. Once this course of action isn't effective, he says that the court ordered him to demand money from Bob, followed by a few posts in which he was pretending to be a manager of some kind or representative, talking about himself in the third person. Please tell Bob to stop only thinking about himself. Your future is at stake, and so is Grace's. This will be the most important thing Bob has ever done. We need him, Daniel. Please tell Bob this for me, Daniel. There is no I in team. He can't expect for you to take all of this on by yourself. You guys started as a great team, and it's time to restart your relationship for the betterment of everyone. It's time to start thinking rationally here. Eventually, Daniel goes back to doing what he does best, playing the victim. He accuses Bob of forcing his company to go into bankruptcy, again because Bob isn't willing to give Daniel free money to continue his work in the music industry, which by the way consists of him eating mac and cheese, drinking expensive soft drinks, and sleeping in motels. In a later post, the nature of his LARPing becomes much clearer. When I see my little girl crying because she's worried about you and your situation, it gets me very upset. I'm more upset with Bob than I am with you. This was written from the perspective of Grace's father. It could be that he's getting these messages from an impersonator, but it could also be that he's pretending of his own accord to be her dad, which is its own category of creepy and, weird. In his regular posts, he calls Bob some expletives and says he has forced Daniel into arrest and debt. In a particularly revealing one, he says, "This is why I hit Bob. He doesn't actually help. He only makes things worse." He declares war on Bob and blames him for making Dan hit himself. It's at this point that things start to get a bit worrisome. After saying that things are going to get worse, Daniel says he'll be going to Bob's work, followed by, "My housing will get done one way or another. I will put Bob through what I had to go through every single day for 5 years. I'm going to hunt Bob down. Everyone, slander Bob's reputation. It's going down tonight. I'm not walking barefoot. I will go to Bob's house and break all his windows. I will burn Bob's house down." Knowing what we know about Daniel being more disturbed and violent than he lets on, there are really good grounds for Bob to get a restraining order against him. He's made many threats that weren't credible, but given he's already been violent against Bob before and probably knows where he lives, it's worth being concerned about. The post slowed down with Daniel becoming depressed and hoping that Bob is scared. Feeling that his words are insufficient, he posts a video of his derelict feet, completely massacred by the incessant walking and lack of basic hygiene, all while saying it's Bob's fault and he is owed compensation.
So, Bob and his family at this point, because he's destroying my life.
He says he wants Bob dead, promises he'll take him out that same night, and hopes Bob passes away from his cancer. Amidst all of his turmoil, Danderson finds time to do some pirating.
Ahoy, mateys! What a great day for selling!
He's got the going unwashed for months part right, at the very least. The 9th has more of the same. Him threatening to become a hero if the fake Tina Vanderwall talking to him won't stop threatening him, reposting the messages the fake Dave Vanderwall sent him trying to get him to see reason, filmed himself doing the fake drunk Mr. Bean routine on a bus, used stock market terms to refer to his apocalyptic finances, proclaimed his intention to burn down a mental hospital, and claims he was assaulted by another homeless person. I haven't found any details about this last part, but given that he was projecting and reversing the roles the last time he accused someone of that, it could likely be the case this time as well. Another day goes by, and Big D is still going at it on the community tab with banger posts such as, "If I find out Grace Vanderwall did cheat on me, I will kill Bob." The poor old man is getting the short end of the stick if you ask me. At this point in time, the subreddit was waging a crusade against Daniel's payment apps. Whenever he made a new Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, you name it, they rushed to mass report it and get it offline so that he couldn't get any money out of donations. I can't imagine donating to the madman, especially when you just know that money will instantly turn into a McFlurry or something equally dumb, but people will do anything, I suppose. Daniel eventually picks up on this and begins pretending that his account had already been banned to try and get people to stop reporting it. To no avail, as the trolls figured this tactic out and just continue relentlessly reporting him into oblivion. In the process, Daniel loses his PayPal, which surprisingly had $300 in it. While it's possible that the people who donated that money got chargebacks, it's also possible that he just got black holed by PayPal and is gone forever now. In order to stabilize his money situation, Daniel gets a job at Uber Eats, only to get fired the same day, probably due to being reported. But low-level employment was never the right fit for him anyway. He was always meant to do greater things. That's why on the 11th, Daniel announces that he will finally get a formal education so that he can get a high-paying job, appropriate for his luxurious financial needs. When asked what he was going to college for, he said music, entertainment, business, and film. He's not all talk either, you see. He canceled a meeting for Section 8 housing so he could work on getting into college. Either trolls instigated the college plans in the first place, or there happened to be some followers of his at Colorado State, because he was immediately welcomed by members of the Phi Kappa Tau fraternity. This video came from the TikTok account of one of its members.
Hi, this is Daniel Larson, and you guys should buy Capita.
The subreddit was really not fond of someone buddy trolling Daniel and playing along with his insanity, so they started attacking the poster until he privated his account. In videos Dan posted to his new YouTube, he can be seen at a party and in the company of some ladies, no less. Like a true chameleon, as soon as he got to college, he dropped his usual personality and did his best to take on the identity of a frat bro. Perhaps the most dangerous part of his buddy troll campaign was the fact that they gave Daniel actual hard alcohol as opposed to the light beers he occasionally sips to pretend to be drunk. He's already a very belligerent and out of control person while sober, so adding alcohol to the mix sounds like a really bad idea. A few videos emerged from this period, such as Daniel kissing a girl on the cheek for a picture, possibly the first woman he consensually touched in his life. The time Daniel spent living the frat boy lifestyle yielded a few other videos. In one of them, the boys Daniel is with got someone to play the role of Flexburger so that Daniel could antagonize him. After giving him a tour of the dorm, Daniel, being the alpha male that he is, naturally rises to a position of authority and starts coaching a couple of tennis players.
Keep your eye on the ball, don't think, just do.
That's the word.
Thank you, coach.
Not satisfied with simply teaching others how to be proper athletes, Daniel then heads to the gym to establish complete dominance by bench pressing some insane weight.
You got it? Good job, Daniel.
This same video also gets uploaded to his YouTube channel, taken from a different point of view and under the title, Training for My Fight with Kanye 556. This is a corollary that's sort of hard to explain, but Kanye 556 is another challenged musician who made a diss track on Daniel, parodying one of his songs, Something More, calling his track Something Less. I'm not sure why this beef surfaced during the college arc of all moments, but whatever. It's also during the college arc that a YouTube channel by the name of Dylan Clark IRL trolls him with fake screenshots to prove Grace is cheating on him, but unfortunately Fortunately for him, he didn't get much of a reaction. Daniel's time as a frat boy is unfortunately short-lived, as the trolls very clearly realized that Coach Deion Sanders was going to be at the Folsom football field on the college premises on the 16th. With this in mind, they saw the opportunity to do a little mischief, so they pretended to be Coach Sanders on YouTube and commented on some of Daniel's stuff, inviting him to go so they could meet up. As we can see from his community posts during this incident to be, the security of the Folsom field was not having it and he wasn't let through. A Reddit user posted a picture of him standing at the field, and the next post he made was this video. As we can see, Daniel is being held down by the police, but it was unknown what exactly caused the situation at that point. A couple more videos came out of Daniel being carried around, and even one where we can see one of the cops carrying his backpack, which just reminds me that Daniel has been carrying multiple used and unwashed fleshlights for weeks now. Imagine how great that smells. The same user who posted the pieces of footage also made a post to contextualize them. The basic explanation is that he was trying to get to Coach Prime, and the security didn't let him, so he kicked the guard and started throwing a tantrum, saying how he was a celebrity and he got taken down. Probably more to it that I didn't see, but that's the basics. The ever-vigilant Reddit users managed to dig up jail bookings for that day and unsurprisingly found his name there, discovering he had been charged with third-degree assault. Another of the users put in an information request for Daniel's arrest, which meant getting the body cam footage from the cops, all of which was eventually published on YouTube. In it, we see that Daniel is initially being restrained or supervised by someone who doesn't look like a cop. He tells one of the cops that he had an interview with Deion Sanders, which might not exactly constitute a lie since he believed it to be true.
Daniel, how's your YouTube channel going?
Not good.
No?
There's been people that are manipulating and posting stuff without my permission.
Oh, okay.
And there was a miscommunication today. I have an interview inside with Deion Sanders.
However, he immediately follows it up with an absolute lie he was aware was false when he claimed to be a student of Colorado State. He eventually clarifies to the cop that he hasn't enrolled but only applied, yet somehow has gotten a full scholarship. After all, what college wouldn't jump on the honor of giving the president a full ride? Considering that the cop whose point of view we're seeing in this video asks Daniel how his YouTube channel is going almost immediately upon seeing him, it seems to be the case that the officer is a fan. I guess this explains why the cop is dealing with Daniel so aptly. He knows what he's dealing with. At another point in the video, he revealed that Dan actually tried to record the incident as it was going down, but failed to do it, depriving the community of witnessing his brawl with the security guards. It's very interesting to see how composed Daniel can make himself seem when he wants to, as during most of his interaction with the cops, he sounds way more normal than his usual self. Not normal per se, but closer to a run-of-the-mill homeless oddball than his actual narcissistic, delusional, horror cow self. A few minutes later, the backpack comes up during their conversation, and the cops ask Daniel if there's anything in there he should be wary of, to which Daniel says no. I wonder if it constitutes reckless endangerment if Daniel gets cops to unknowingly interact with his possibly disease-ridden adult toys. Besides the videos consisting of the same interrogation but from the point of view of the other officers who were with Daniel, one of the other videos shows Daniel being driven around in the back of a squad car in handcuffs. Another of the uploads, labeled Daniel Larson Arrest Footage Part 4, has one of the cops doing an unboxing of the accursed backpack. A bunch of loose papers, a phone and charger, his scuffed tennis shoes, and then the officer does a double take before reaching for his phone to take a picture of the Larsonian collectibles he just found.
1546. Check this out.
Thank God he was wearing gloves. The pictures were eventually shared to the subreddit, and though I can't show them for obvious reasons, they definitely look, used. And just like that, Daniel was going to jail. But as you can see from the play bar underneath the video, the story is not over, though I wish it was. Just 2 days after his arrest, he was back out looking gangster. A day later, after he secured a phone, he does a stream explaining the story of his arrest, claiming the security was using him for their own publicity and the usual shtick. On the 21st, he's yet again believing Grace is pregnant, only this time he believes he's the father. It's hard to measure what Daniel means and what Daniel just says for attention, but I think he's delusional enough to believe he fathered a child despite being a virgin. Speaking of saying things for attention, a day later, he tells a story about having almost died in a car crash, which promptly changed to having witnessed a car crash where one flipped over from 30 feet away. If I were to guess, it's all fake. Because during this whole time, he didn't take one picture of the event, despite supposedly hanging around for long enough to see the paramedics arrive. And if you know anything about Daniel, there's no way something's gonna happen to him that he isn't gonna film. A couple of events take place after this. First, it sounds like Daniel is back in contact with Bob, who is trying to inform Daniel that the stories on Reddit about people making millions off of illegally illegally selling his merch are fake. Daniel does a Google search and finds the most scuffed pieces of merch possible on Etsy and AliExpress and uses it as proof of the Reddit claims. Notwithstanding, he captions one of the bed covers with his face stretched out all over it with, "This is why I hit Bob." In slightly better news, Daniel says he's upset that Bob doesn't seem to care anymore and complains that the old man is getting himself security and a weapon, which is long overdue to say the least. On the same day, Daniel meets God. Not directly, but through attending the Red Rocks Church. I'm surprised he hasn't been routinely visiting churches already, considering they often give something or other to the local homeless, whether Dan sees himself as a homeless lunatic or not. Later on, he does a stream claiming to be in the ER for his trench foot, but since the stream is completely dark, it's possible this is another fake story. While that was going on, the guys over at Reddit found out that Daniel had made a new Pinterest account that was equally filled with sus images of middle school age looking girls. The 26th is punctuated with yet another flurry of insane community tab spamming after Daniel sees a poorly photoshopped picture of Grace looking all bruised up. Instantly, he begins talking about bombing places, targeting Bob, and doing something drastic to himself again, all of which is customary at this point. Later on, he claimed to have been hacked and that none of the posts he made during this period were his, yet many of them contained screenshots taken from his phone, which confirmed he was lying. The trolls informed the local PD of Daniel's posts, and during a stream of his, he was interrogated.
Yes. Commander Cooper with the Black Hawk Police Department?
Yeah.
Can I see your phone? Do you have any weapons on you or anything?
I don't.
Okay.
Can I ask?
Could I have you turn around and we're just going to patch down for
They talked for a while, and once the cops realized Daniel was off his rocker, they sent him to a mental hospital where he stayed the night on an M1 hold, meaning he was deemed to be gravely disabled. As soon as he got back to phone maxing as usual, people began asking about the Pinterest account, which really annoyed him. To prove his innocence, he posted screenshots of what his phone's home screen looks like. First off, there was a noticeable missing square right on the first screen, signifying that that's where the Pinterest icon was before he removed it so he could take the screenshot. Secondly, he's just showing the home screens, not the complete app list, so he didn't even uninstall it, he just removed the icon from his home screen. Thirdly, his screen is littered with porn games, along with a noticeable Tumblr icon, meaning he probably also has a Tumblr account no one knows about. Imagine what's on that. At the very end of the month, we get another extremely creepy moment from Daniel when during his recording of a concert he was attending, his camera gradually drifts downward to center on a kid who was dancing in front of him. A few minutes go by and he's barely even pointing the camera at the stage anymore, focusing solely on the kids dancing. Eventually, there's some girl in like a soccer outfit, and we can visibly see Daniel struggling not to point his camera directly at her while doing his best to also keep her in frame, to the point where he starts centering his camera at a nondescript part of the stage so he could record her without looking suspicious. Someone who was at the concert took a picture of Daniel as he did this, and it definitely looks like he's up to no good. The curator uploaded a video documenting Daniel's deeds, which Daniel wasn't very happy with, so he made a response.
So the Daniel Larson creator account on YouTube needs to stop saying that I am recording children with my videos, or I will literally report him to the FBI. Just because I was filming a concert doesn't mean I was filming children. If Daniel Larson, curator on YouTube, doesn't take down his entire channel, I will sue him for every single dollar he is worth.
The curator gracefully denied the request for him to take down his channel and instead put up a video of Dan throwing it back. October begins with Dan being banned from Woody's Pizza, failing to attend one of his court dates, and announcing he has 5 more ahead of him. Right after getting a new jacket and dumping the green one, he gets arrested once again, this time for failing to show up to court. Simultaneously, his phone completely bricks, causing him to lose access to most of his social media accounts, as he always uses random passwords to set up accounts and can't ever log back in if he gets logged out. His plot armor proves to be as strong as ever though, since he just comes back a day later like nothing happened. Over the next couple of days, as the laws of man fail to detain him, the universe itself begins trolling Daniel as his trench foot problem comes back to torment him. In a comment, he said, "My trench foot issue did something strange today. Today I took off my sock and the sock stuck to my trench foot and literally pulled off a good layer of skin. So I'm going to have to run to the store and see if I can get some sort of cast to put on it." It's worth mentioning that winter is coming, so the prospects for Daniel's physical health are looking increasingly dreadful. A few days of unimportant activity go by until the 8th, when Daniel makes some very interesting claims.
Last week, I got interrogated by Daniel McDougall, the Secret Service agent, over me and Grace Vanderwall. One of the people that was impersonating to be Grace Vanderwall did send me video verification, but the video verification that they sent me was a nude photo of a child. When I tried to save that
for investigation to show to Daniel McDougall. Daniel McDougall, the Secret Service agent, actually saw it on my phone and didn't believe my story at all. So I might be charged for child pornography now, because people who were impersonating to be Grace, sending verification, was sending me like actual child for verification.
What's interesting here is that Daniel could have easily said that the image was automatically saved to his phone, but he made it a point to say he purposefully saved it for investigation. As terrible as this is, it's not hard to find it funny how awful he is at coming up with excuses and explanations. A few days later, we get another revealing statement which, though not as bad, also sent ripples through the structure of the Daniel Larson community.
During the entire fog era, my entire management told me to put tape over my camera and remove it for extra publicity.
That's right, the infamous fog era was faked for publicity, architected by one of the managers. I almost feel like not even sharing that piece of information to preserve the mystique, but guess the cat's out of the bag now. On his community tab, he calls Code Silver and says he's running multiple times. The same day, he claims to have been arrested once again for trespassing, but it looks like the cops just talked to him a little bit and then let him go. Over the next week or so, he finally gets some of his accounts taken down and makes a few new ones. Most importantly, he innovated his dine and dash strategy. This time, he rolled up to a restaurant, looked at the orders that were on the desk waiting for a delivery guy to pick them up, saw that one of them was being sent to someone who had the same first name as him, and just straight up stole it. The person who documented this on Reddit said, called Noodle & Company and asked about a stinky bum Daniel if he stole the food. The worker immediately knew what I was talking about and asked if I was law enforcement. He told me Daniel was banned from the establishment. He went there with his phone and charger for over 2 hours, and when a mobile order for Daniel was called out, he collected it. Later, a dad and son came, and it was their order he stole, and they got in a slight altercation. On the 19th, the day before another court date of his, Daniel posts this video.
So, I'm skipping court tomorrow because Bob is telling me how to use my money, and now I have a warrant.
It's promptly followed by a series of community posts reading, I'm thinking about committing arson this winter to be able to stay warm. I will blow up Bob's house with fireworks if he tries to control me or my music. Bob might have cost me my entire contract with Columbia Records, so if I find out that's true and Ivan is stealing my money, I would sue Bob for everything he has. Bob needs to pay for my Denver warrant. When I asked Bob to pay for lunch, he gave me $500 for food, and when I saved $300, he got angry, so I had to pull everything out of savings. It's time everyone grows up and takes responsibility for the situation we got ourselves in. Bob is a liar, and at this point, I'm concerned he's putting money toward the wrong things. Housing will not happen until Bob helps because I already have a full-time job. Bob needs to pay me right now. I reported Bob to the police. Bob won't listen to me, so I guess I might have to rob a bank. Bob is definitely putting money toward the wrong things if he's still giving a cent to Daniel Larson. The best part about this is when Daniel talks about saving $300, which means that he actually spent $200 in one day for food. On what? I do not know. Soon after, he sends a message to Bob through a video.
So I am thinking on building a civil case against Bob and the fact that he won't give me my music copyright codes.
His hatred towards Bob is being heavily instigated by trolls who even went as far as recreating Bob's voice with AI.
Yes, I am Bob Proctor. Is this the CEO of Spirit Halloween, Steven Silverstein?
Yes, it is. How are you doing today, Bob?
Well, I guess I'm doing okay.
You're about to be blown away after I tell you how much money you have made off of Daniel Larson's costumes and merchandise from my Spirit Halloween stores.
No way, Steve. What are the profits from this year's costumes and merch?
Well, Bob, I'm glad you asked. We are projected to make a profit of $1.5 billion.
No way, Steve. That is amazing. That is so much money.
Yes, it is, Bob. By the way, how much money are you going to give to Daniel Larson?
I'll give him $100 here and there and maybe a motel room. That isn't touching any of these profits. He doesn't deserve it.
But things subside, and a little while later, we get to witness Daniel under a tree panting like a dog. Quality content. However, none of these smaller morsels of action even compare to the arc that was about to begin, the reverse mohawk arc. On the 23rd of October, Daniel is seen with his head shaved exclusively down the middle as we hear clippers buzzing in the background. Based on this information, we can ascertain that Danderson has indeed just got a fresh cut. However, it seems he regretted his decisions as he did a live called Daniel Larson Angry at His New Haircut. Though a lot of the TikTok videos surrounding the reverse mohawk are now gone, they've been archived. Apparently, in their original upload, one of them got over over 1 million views. Basically, the story behind the reverse mohawk is a fan offered to give him a free haircut, stopped midway to supposedly go get a blow dryer, and then told him something happened to their car and they wouldn't be able to finish the haircut, thus dooming Daniel to have a reverse mohawk.
They said they'll come back.
I'm unsure if the troll that did this knew this part and was planning for this on purpose, but Daniel was supposed to show up to court the very next day, and he ended up doing it with the reverse mohawk. But eventually, he stops resenting the cut and just embraces it.
My inspiration behind this haircut, I wanted it to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger got struck by lightning, just like Albert Einstein.
On the 26th, he tries to sleep in a parking garage, gets caught, and has an altercation with the management.
It sounds like you're a little crazy. Do you want me to leave?
I want you to stay.
So you want me to stay now?
Yeah, because then the police will come and they will talk with you, and they'll give you a citation, and they'll trespass you. You've been through this before, several times. I'm sure you know how it goes.
I have not been here before.
I never said you've been here before.
I have you on recording.
No, I said you've been through this before.
No, I haven't.
You've never been trespassing. You sleep in private properties all the time. No one's ever trespassed you. So when the police come, they're not going to have a record of it.
That's correct, because I haven't.
Then just stay right there.
Okay.
The man's expression of complete exhaustion and hopelessness is the most appropriate reaction. After the man leaves, Daniel begins going schizo and talking to himself.
This guy is really being a dick. Rude as hell.
Daniel gets trespassed, but nothing of particular note takes place as a consequence. Over the next few days, I haven't really been able to find sources for the things that supposedly happened, but according to what's been put down in the ancient records in the annals of Larson history, supposedly Daniel asked for $4,000 from his followers and claimed it was going to keep him from going to jail since he had court on the 31st. Simultaneously, he claims he made $5,000 every week, but needs $6 to make a new song and another $10 for transportation to court. On the 31st, when he does attend court, he actually gets sentenced to 6 months of supervised probation and $1,000 in fines. There actually is footage of the hearing itself, and it's extremely surreal.
Mr. Larson, would you like to say anything before I sentence you? You have a right to make a statement, but if you choose not to say anything, I won't hold that against you. Is there anything you'd like me to know about yourself or about this case?
About 30 minutes prior to the incident, I had my dog napped from me, and that is what led to the mental health situation that escalated in the Walmart.
To celebrate the result of his hearing, Daniel goes bowling, where he can be seen with a gigantic brown stain on his lower back. The first 9 days of November contained little activity, with Anderson emergency begging so he could pay for his phone bill and returning to the crime scene by going to Dave & Buster's again. However, all of this lull pays off, as on the 10th, we get the mother of all meltdowns. At around 8 p.m., Daniel is spotted at Panera Bread on his phone as usual. According to what was pieced together post facto, a random group of kids was following Daniel everywhere he went, filming and taking pictures of him in the process. Daniel even posted about these followers himself, saying they were calling their friends so they'd also show up. Eventually, their interactions devolved into an open altercation going on in the middle of the street.
You guys need to shut the f up! Don't be talking like that! No, I work on our f***ing management, so shut the f*** up! I'm calling the police on you! I have you on camera!
Due to being hassled outside by the fans, Daniel goes back into the Panera, though because of his circumstances, the employees start asking him to leave, and it doesn't go well, as you can imagine.
Those people are causing the situation! Stop telling me!
You're cursing me out of my store.
I'm not putting hands on you! I'm not putting hands on you! Try me! 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 Try me!
Look at this crackhead.
Fans are leaking my location! Fans are leaking my location! Fans are leaking my location! I'm famous!
You're going to get trespassed, and I'm going to press charges for you assaulting.
I never assaulted you! I never put hands on you! I never put hands on you! I never assaulted you!
Step back right now!
I never did anything! Press charges on me! I never did anything!
I got it all on video.
Oh, nah.
It might be difficult to make out since the video is being recorded from the point of view of a bystander who's standing at a safe distance from Anderson, but he's holding and looking at his phone the entire time, even when he's screaming at people. This is because he was on a Discord call with his management while the meltdown was happening, and they also recorded the entire thing as Daniel had his camera on. In their recording, which appears to have taken place shortly after the meltdown, Daniel is claiming that the man we saw him flip a table at was trying to put his hands on him, and that the only reason he was taking shelter in Panera in the first place was because the fans were attempting to do a drive-by on him. They also captured the conversation that Daniel had after the cops arrived.
Unplug your stuff and stand up.
Can I talk to you for a moment?
Shoot, as long as you're standing up while unplugging your phone and walking out of the store.
I will be more than happy to do that. There's actually a very serious issue that has happened, and I need to report it. So I'm famous, okay? I've already got investigations.
What's famous for?
I'm a singer-songwriter. Okay, I have.
When's the last time you used drugs or alcohol?
I don't use drugs and I don't use alcohol.
Eyeballs say differently.
I always have dry eye.
No, it's not dry. Really dilated pupils while you're inside sitting in a light.
That's because I'm always on my phone.
Because they would have changed back already because you've been off your phone for almost a minute. That's how the eyeballs work.
I don't do drugs and I don't do alcohol.
Mental health issues have you been diagnosed with?
Just autism.
Just autism?
Yes.
Sure.
I came in here because I was having an issue with a troll/hater in my fan base community outside threatening me with a gun. They were threatening me to do drive-by shooting along this shopping center.
What's your first name?
Daniel.
Daniel? Why are on the table? Turn over, Daniel.
The manager tried to put hands on me to escort me outside.
Don't think that was probably it.
And
because you're in here acting like a Looney Tunes.
I felt endangered. I knocked down the tables to try to create a barrier so I could be on one side and they could be on the other.
I'm real with you. That's a piss poor excuse, bud.
But I felt in danger.
So you punched yourself in the face a bunch of times?
The manager was threatening to press charges on me.
So if you come in here flipping tables over and punching yourself in the face and they say leave and you say no, they say we're going to trespass you and you say no, that's trespassing. Where'd all these fans come from? They just found you out of nowhere?
I'm a singer-songwriter. I have music on iHeartRadio, Roaring Thunder. It has over 5 million views. This is my entire YouTube. And I'm even dating this person.
Well, where do you live at?
I'm currently homeless.
You're homeless, but you got 5 million views on YouTube. Don't they pay for that?
They do, but I'm dealing with a family crisis. And a lot of my money is going to the family crisis. I'm extremely famous.
You have a TikTok?
I do have a TikTok as well, yes. My handle...
Something Freedom?
Yeah, it's Daniel Larson Freedom.
Someone sent that to our PD and gave that handle, that TikTok.
Like I was saying, because fans are coming in, I don't have security.
I don't feel like that's the issue. I feel like it's the yelling at staff, flipping tables over, punching yourself until you bleed.
I only did that because the manager was...
That literally makes 0 sense.
He threatened me. He threatened to be...
You said you harmed yourself?
He threatened to press charges on me, and I knew I was innocent.
You weren't? He asked you to leave, and you said no. I said trespassing. You're guilty as...
Right.
Guilty as right now, bud.
I don't care if some people think this is unprofessional of the cop. The way he just keeps bombarding Daniel with very reasonable retorts is something I don't think I've seen anyone do before. And you can actually notice Daniel begins to tear up as he has no idea how to explain to the cop why he'd been hitting himself. It's kind of sad, but at the same time, I think Daniel needs a serious reality check by someone who is on the outside and isn't going to play into his delusions or troll him or mess with him in any way. Showcasing how truly aware he is, as soon as the cops leave his immediate vicinity and he's only talking to the people on Discord again, this is what Daniel has to say.
Bob is doing nothing to help. He's basically leaving me to die. There's actual cars right now following me, planning a murder. And Bob is being a f***ing because he's doing nothing to help.
He takes to his community to play the victim and showcase his bruises, all self-inflicted, mind you. While he isn't taken to jail for what he did in the Panera, things definitely don't improve over the course of the next few days. He's kicked out of another motel, turns 25 years old, and on the 16th, something very disturbing happens. In order to capitalize on the people telling him to take a shower, Daniel takes a page out of DSP's book and does a shower stream, though it's speculated that he just left the faucet running loudly for a while. The disturbing part is when an interaction can be heard between Daniel and another man. This man does not sound like Bob. It's sort of out there, but people on Reddit have speculated that we're hearing Daniel sell his body to a stranger, which is a horror in its own right. The rest of the month is just the usual Daniel activity, with him begging for money to fulfill his fantasy of renting out an apartment and then burning through all of it, buying $50 gourmet noodles, rinse and repeat. On the very last day, Daniel attends court once again, only to be sentenced to 12 months of probation, 48 hours of community service, anger management, and a fine. As December begins, he hits another hard low, writing, "Bob is refusing to answer me and is starting to put me in danger. Maybe jail is better than the streets. I'm waiting until dark before I rob the bank. I'm planning on going to Lowe's to get a rope to..." I can't say what he was planning to do after he robbed the bank, but I think you guys can imagine from the rope. These intense feelings subside as he returns to his normal self the next day.
It is December 3rd, 2023, and my bank account I woke up to being in the negative $60. I'm waiting for Bob to give me more money.
Around the same time, someone by the name of Katie1319 made a few comments on YouTube claiming to have gone to school with Daniel, saying, "I went to school with Daniel back in 2014. He came from a very neglected household. He is developmentally disabled and shouldn't be allowed to be alone. However, since he is an adult, I'm not sure what the requirements are for him to be placed in a home. Our school was for kids that had been through it, so there were guardians, which were staff members. These guardians were with Daniel even when he went to the bathroom. Every day from 7 a.m. to 3:25 in the afternoon, he had someone walking with him. I'm just so shocked that he went from being the sweetest kid to this. Unfortunately, I think his final home will end up being a jail cell. He is out of control. He is a predator, he is a creep, he is unhinged." According to Daniel, 3 days into December, he had already spent $500 and was $60 overdrawn. As his finances continue to tighten due to no longer getting any financial support from Bob, Daniel finally caves and decides to head for the homeless shelter. On the 8th, he gets into some trouble at the King Supers for talking loudly on the phone to the Vanderwall family. He claimed he got arrested, but really just got talked to a little bit. As far as Daniel is concerned, he's in a comfy enough arrangement. He gets to walk around all day and pull his antics, and at night, he goes to sleep at the homeless shelter. However, if there's one thing Daniel hates, it's a stable arrangement. On the 10th, he went to Olive Garden to meet up with Grace, her family, Agent McDougal, and other famous people he was deluded into thinking would be present. Strangely enough, when Daniel walked in there with his half-grown reverse mohawk asking for a table of 8, he actually got it, which upset some of the people working since he was taking up space that could have been occupied by real customers. He was live streaming as he did this, and consequently, the phone calls to Olive Garden started. It's at this point that the staff noticed Daniel was filming inside and told him it wasn't allowed. Little did they know that trying to get Dan to stop using his phone is one of his triggers.
So my location gets breached. Like I said, I'm a Hollywood celebrity.
Is there something that we can get for you? Or?
I'm waiting for the FBI. They're in the parking lot. They're putting together their documents. They're in the black cars out there. And I have family also out there. And we're putting together documents. Because they're looking at the subreddit right now. And we have more than enough verification to believe that the employees here are leaking my location and like doxing nude photos. I don't have to call the police on the Olive Garden. We've already done that. And there was also an undercover, one of the people undercover in here. So we actually have people in here that are secret agents and stuff. Okay, I just got sent a picture of the police holding Grace to a car outside.
The image he's talking about is this one that he posted to his community, which is one of the first images that pop up when you look up blonde woman arrested. In a shocking twist, Daniel got sick of being arrested, so he decided to turn the tables and be the one who arrests.
I'm performing a citizen's arrest, so the FBI is outside. I have more than enough photos coming in.
Who are you arresting?
I'm arresting every single person here.
I'm gonna ask you to come over here, actually. Over here. We've been very nice. You're not filming me, correct?
I am legally required to.
No, you can actually just leave now.
I don't have to leave. The FBI is here. I have f***ing photos.
Okay, sir, this is what I'm gonna tell you. You're gonna calm down right now. You're gonna stop filming me, or I'm gonna call the police and they're gonna remove you from here. I know that's what you want. I know that's what you're famous for on TikTok, but we are not doing this. You're gonna curse at me again, or you're going to leave.
I never cursed.
What I'm gonna tell you right now is you're gonna stop filming and you're going to leave, or I'm going to call the police right now.
Go ahead and call the police.
Thank you, I will.
I just got sent pictures and photos of Grace being assaulted. I'm not gonna just sit here and call those photos fake. I got sent them from the f***ing FBI.
I'm gonna ask you again about the person. There's children in here. I'm gonna ask you again.
I have photos.
I need you to lower your voice.
I just got notified that Rick Yorn at LBI Entertainment, who is the CEO, has called the head manager and the CEO of all Olive Gardens, and you're fired.
When he noticed his little tantrum wasn't working, Daniel upped the ante.
Yeah, I guess so.
Hey, whoa, no sir!
The fire alarm was soon turned off by the employees without any issue. Eventually, the fire department and the police arrived, and Daniel informed them of what was going on.
Yes, I have information that is extremely important with the managers here. My name is Daniel Larson. I'm a upcoming celebrity. I'm dating another singer-songwriter named Grace Vanderwall.
Someone got a picture of him while this took place, but once again, the plot armor proved invulnerable, and nothing happened to Daniel besides a trespass and a charge for pulling the fire alarm. Over the course of the next couple days, after not getting replies from Bob for a while, Daniel was tricked into believing the old man is gone, supposedly as a consequence of a heart attack. But eventually, the real Bob notified him that he just wasn't going to reply anymore due to everything said in their calls being shared on the YouTube channel. The Olive Garden wasn't the last restaurant attacked by Daniel, as in quick succession, he tried his hand at Old Chicago, only to get outwitted by the line cook who decided to take a break from work to shark on him.
You are retarded.
Wow, that's rude.
Okay, I don't care. Freedom of speech.
That is true.
Then he targets IHOP, orders food he can't afford, expects his chat to pay for it, and gets the police called on him again, even if less eventfully than at Olive Garden. Funnily enough, the same exact team of cops that arrived at Olive Garden are the ones who show up.
Hey Daniel.
Hello.
Remember me from Olive Garden?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. What's going on today, man?
Not only does Daniel not care about dining and dashing all the time, he actually gloats about it.
I now pretty much get every single thing in life for free. I got free bus tickets, I got free clothing, I got free food. Next is going to be free housing.
And despite the cops who showed up being generally nice to him, he gets easily tricked into thinking he's in contact with the police, resulting in clips like these.
Police officers need to stop calling me Dan. My name is Daniel. And stop saying I'm gay, because the next time that they do that, I will slap the police officer.
Later on, he posts these particularly ominous updates.
Get ready for 2 weeks of complete darkness on the internet. It's going to get real bad. Everything for 2024 is about to shift for the worst.
I would love to tell you this is the last we've heard of him, but unfortunately, life isn't always fair. For the rest of December, he continued to wander around the streets of Colorado while live streaming, demanding to be given money and repeating the cycle of trying to get a hold of Bob, failing, and then defaulting to slandering him and making threats to his life. At this point, the very low temperatures are turning his insanity up a notch. 2 days before Christmas, after being banned from all sit-down restaurants in his county, he trespasses.
I will have the police trespass you if you do not leave the property right now.
Go ahead and trespass me.
Okay, great.
I'm working on
This is uncalled for.
It's a red flag when all of Golden knows about who you are, Daniel.
It's because I'm f***ing famous.
I don't care. I don't care if you're famous.
So
they're calling our business saying that you're causing trouble, and right now you are causing my property trouble. So I need you to leave.
Okay, then I'll leave the f***ing state of Colorado.
Bye. See you later. Are you serious right now?
Yes.
Why? That's why you're kicked out. Get out. I'm calling the police. Get out.
You guys are ridiculous. Like, just because I booked a motel room?
Don't break my stuff. Get out, Daniel. Now. Get out. Don't come back. If you come back,
then I'll leave f***ing Colorado.
Get out. Get out.
Then I'll leave f***ing Colorado.
Get out my property now.
Then I guess I'll violate f***ing probation and leave Colorado.
Goodbye.
Because all this f***ing town is reporting me.
Goodbye.
The next 2 days have a lot of ups and downs, as Christmas Eve was quite peaceful, but Christmas itself concluded with Daniel calling a wellness check on Bob after being convinced that the man had perished because he didn't reply to Daniel's harassment tier attempts to establish contact. The police quickly found out Bob was fine and just didn't want anything to do with Daniel. At the end of the day, he claims that he won't have anything to eat and will be sleeping on the streets that night as he's run out of money and cannot afford more motel living. Of course, he blames all of this on Bob, accusing him of ruining Christmas, followed by threats to his life and well-being. He starts acting increasingly erratic until he lands himself in a hospital, only to be discharged about an hour and a half later, but not before he got 2 meals in, meaning that's probably the underlying reason he went. The 27th is marked by intense paranoid delusions, but no meltdown occurs this time, and a day later, he successfully attends his probation checkup. He meets up with a few fans IRL and makes a video announcing that if Bob doesn't take him in, he will be flying to Jamaica.
Bob, if you don't get me a motel room tonight, these fans are gonna take me to Jamaica.
While these things are happening, Daniel reveals he's made $900 from donations to his music music. He keeps circling back to his paranoid delusions about the FBI and the Secret Service doing surveillance on him, which makes me think eventually he will go full-blown gangstalker schizo. It doesn't really help that in the last few days of 2023, someone was actually following him around with a drone and even caught it on camera so that he could report it to the police. Though I'm not sure what the police would do about it. He spends the end of the year lamenting that Bob has permanently cut ties, becoming increasingly unhinged and delusional.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
And as always, trying to pressure his following into sending him more money.
I was on the streets again last night. The next couple weeks look like financial hell to come.
As a profoundly moving act of charity, someone decided to meet Daniel in real life and give him a nice stack of money, which really shows that the spirit of the holidays is still alive. Except for the fact that someone was actually a friend of Flexburgers, and the stack of money was counterfeit given to Daniel with the express intent of having him try to pay for things with it, get caught, and eventually get arrested. But this evil genius plan didn't pan out quite as expected because he found out it was counterfeit the next day, probably due to someone online telling him. On the 1st of January, 2024, he announced that the official name for that day from then on would be Carrot Day, the international holiday of donations, promptly followed by someone throwing a Mountain Dew at him.
Daniel, how are you?
I am searching for sodas. Hey! Back away!
You like that, Daniel?
Back away!
The Larsonian community discovers that being the president has its perks, as Sky Bree, an OnlyFans model, announces her desire to meet up with Daniel in real life and do a collaboration. Where do I even begin? Obviously, as much as I'm not the kind of guy who thinks Daniel is some innocent disabled person who has no idea what they're doing, I can confidently say no one, disabled or otherwise, should be doing any collaborations with him. And that's not even mentioning that at this point, he's got to be a carrier to at least 3 unknown diseases fatal to anyone not possessing the same kind of plot armor he does. Although I gotta say, Sky, if you're watching this, that video would be really funny. As the community caught wind of this development and contacted Sky, she ended up retracting her statement, saying, "Sorry guys, I got a few DMs telling me to check out the Reddit. Had no clue about the P-word stuff. Safe to say, I'm very disturbed. Deleted my story immediately. I've only ever seen the Rolling Thunder memes and random people finding him and hanging out with him. Again, knew nothing about the weird stuff. Definitely should have done my research. I'm so sorry." Everyone makes mistakes once in a while, but I'm pretty sure that since she's of legal age, Daniel wouldn't be interested in hanging out with her anyway. A little while goes by without anything eventful happening until Daniel breaks somewhat concerning news. He claims his probation got canceled. I say this is concerning because you never know when he's lying, and the rationalizations he uses for his lies can get quite inventive, so I wouldn't put it past him to not show up to a probation thing and then claim it was canceled, which would definitely land him in jail. On the 5th of January, Daniel posted a couple of videos complaining about the people following him and getting him kicked out of locations, eventually recording a specific person, though we can't tell if this is actually the culprit or if it's a random person Daniel decided was to blame for what was happening. We can also notice that the fog is once again coming back, but it's impossible to know if this is happening organically or if Daniel is doing it for attention. Daniel got fed up with the stalking and decided to call the police, resulting in this.
So the police showed up and they said that the 2 people that were filming me, following me around, weren't following me around and weren't taking videos of me and weren't sending me text messages, and they called me a liar.
He could be lying and didn't even call the police at all, but it's important to track Mr. President's headcanon as well as the real life events that happen around him. Unfortunately for Daniel, the harassment does nothing but intensify.
That black car or that red car going down the road, they just screamed at me, "F you."
Then, though it's unsure when exactly this took place during the day, someone decided to find Daniel IRL and try to give him a shower. After this, while Daniel was live streaming, it seems like he got kicked out of the homeless shelter he was in, though he referred to it as his dorm to continue his college thing. As things get progressively worse for him, he makes a photo mode post to TikTok showing a one-sided conversation between him and Bob, complaining about not having money and lying about being involved in a 4-vehicle bus crash orchestrated by the Discord server, and getting mad when Bob continues to not answer, saying it's not how you treat family and friends, despite the fact that Bob is neither. On the 6th of January, Daniel posts a video where we can see one of his eyes is very irritated and red, and his nose has a bruise on it, not in the shape of Africa this time. In it, he goes on to explain he was attacked the night prior and had his phone stolen. And to make matters worse, he got involved in a car accident immediately after. You might be wondering, if he had his phone stolen, then how is he recording the video? Well, he somehow got his hands on $400 to buy himself a new one. Again, that's $400 spent on a deep-seated addiction to cataloging every minute of his life to strangers who are either entertained by him or actively hate him, instead of saving up for food and water, which he will most definitely need given that he's homeless. Daniel diverts attention away from from that information by lamenting the $600 he supposedly had in his TikTok account, which he can no longer access because he puts random things as his password and then forgets them and relies entirely on having access to the same device that's already logged in. Kind of fitting for his nomadic lifestyle, to be honest. Despite his unfortunate circumstances, this didn't at all impede his very important work as the US president as he continues to busy himself with the enforcement of justice.
I just got word from the US Secret Service that they are investigating Goated Minds and his harassment towards me.
Strangely, the next few days are quite devoid of activity, and I'm really not sure why since he'd just gotten a new phone. But on the 8th of January, he made another one of his classic bank statement posts, as we can see here. DLR Records and Entertainment is $1,000 overdrawn and has $5 grand in savings. Frustrated with the banking system sabotaging his rule, Daniel goes to the Canvas Credit Union at Denver International Airport to protest. Just kidding, I'm pretty sure he went there to squat and take a nap or something, got caught and was arrested for trespassing, which I'm pretty sure is a violation of his probation.
I just did business here.
Sir.
I'm waiting.
No, you have a boarding pass.
I was at the Canvas Credit Union.
Sir, nope, it's not gonna fly. You have a boarding pass.
I don't.
Yes or no?
I don't, because I went to Canvas.
All right, let's go.
His strategy was effective, though, since the following day, he claimed his debt had been completely cleared. After this minor incident, the TikTok uploads came back in full force with a whopping 41 videos. In them, Daniel says he spent $600 on a hotel room so he wouldn't have to sleep on the streets or trespass into places he can sleep in, and he's planning to go back to college in a month and a half. If the arrest from the day prior wasn't bad enough, Daniel reveals that his probation depends on his ability to secure housing by April, or it will be revoked and he will be sent to jail. It was even specified to him that blaming his homelessness on Bob was not a valid excuse. Perhaps disturbed with his own situation, Daniel begins to say some menacing things.
I am required to get an apartment by April, or there will be a revoke in probation, and I am being told that Bob is not going to be an excuse. It is January 2024, and the odds of me disappearing for a certain period of time is at an all-time high.
In slightly better news, well, depending on what you mean by better, I guess, Daniel announces that he will be releasing 3 albums in the near future. At this point, it's becoming quite clear that Daniel either doesn't care anymore about avoiding jail time, or his broken mind has completely forgotten what the concept of probation meant, because on the 12th, he suggests he won't be showing up to one of his regular checkups because, according to him, he doesn't have any paperwork saying he needs to do that. Soon after, he announces he's back in debt and that this is somehow Bob's fault because Bob is unemployed now. I'm not even sure this is true or if it's just something Daniel is saying to bait Bob into responding. Speaking of Bob, Daniel makes a shocking revelation.
I just got off the phone with an investigator for the leaked phone calls of Bob's voice on the Reddit, and I have now found out that it is edited and fake.
Basically, translating from Larsonese here, a buddy troll told him that he was being tricked by people pretending to be Bob so that he would reply. In the comments of this video, Daniel announces a lockdown and his account goes private for a short time. I guess to make himself look less crazy and pretend he was still on good terms with Bob, a day later, he claims he just had a week-long vacation with Bob. He isn't capable of holding this facade up for very long though, as immediately after, he posts a video saying he's in danger and needs Bob's help, meaning he doesn't actually have contact with Bob. Soon after, he once again embarks on a bus to somewhere, which again, may be a violation of his parole depending on where he's heading, though for now he puts some effort into not letting people know his location. This also marks the beginning of a new headphones era, as is visible in a good few of the dozens of new slideshow posts to his TikTok. While most of these posts contain irrelevant information, in one of them, he claims his probation officer informed him he's been banned from the college. I don't know what to make of this at all, because if he was still in contact with his probation officer, he had to be lying profusely to him about his whereabouts and what he was up to. On the 21st, Daniel tries to make himself look like he has money by telling a story about having gone to the bank to make a deposit, only to find out that it was Sunday and the bank was closed, ruining his plans. At this point, Daniel has been consistently mentioning that he was planning to get a haircut soon for about 2 weeks, but never actually got it, possibly because he had no money at all. He once again brings up his $500 worth of debt, explaining that it's related to missing his mental health evaluations. On the 22nd, his TikTok account finally gets unprivated, and Daniel claims to have started college the day before. I can't say this is for sure, but his account getting privated might have something to do with him evading his probation appointments, because just a day after it became public public again, a warrant was issued for his arrest due to his failure to show up to court and his court fine having gone unpaid. Being the stone cold gangster that he is, this doesn't faze him at all, and he proceeds to announce he will be dropping 2 new rap tracks and letting other artists know when he's planning to release them, because in his opinion, if anyone tries to release on the same day, they will become financially devastated. Speaking of finance, Daniel makes a few prophecies concerning the economy. In particular, he says there will be a bull market in 2024 that's even greater than the one in 2020. On the 24th, we learn exactly what Daniel means when he says that he's going to college. He's been attending calls with a troll pretending to be a college teacher. As we can see from this community post, he's being taught about the notorious first king of Texas, Aishid and Fardad. Honestly, top-notch work from this troll to fake the little PowerPoint image thing to make a more convincing college class for Daniel. A day later, Daniel was once again attacked, supposedly having a bottle of perfume thrown at him. In addition to saying that his $200 headphones were stolen, because of course he has a $200 pair of headphones, he adds that the attacker threw a cup of pee at him. And I absolutely must make 2 notes about this. First off, unless there were 2 different incidents of people throwing fluids at him in the same period of time, this means that it took him a while to figure out that he was doused with urine and not perfume as he initially thought. Does this mean that Daniel mistakes the smell of perfume for body fluids? If so, that would actually explain a lot. It's funny to me that in the slideshow where he complains about it, he specifies, "Now my clothes smell like someone else's pee," as if it wasn't the stench of piss that was the problem, but the fact that he knew it was someone else's that irked him. He proceeded to tell the mall cops about what happened, and I suppose they did what they could, though I can't imagine mall cops have access to piss forensics so they can figure out the perpetrator. A day later, Daniel decided to do what he could to not be homeless, as Colorado weather was not being kind to him, and so he feigned an illness in order to check himself into a hospital. The hospital very quickly figured out there was nothing wrong with him, and even if there was, he would definitely not be able to afford any kind of health care in the state, so they discharged him, only to find him sleeping in their lobby. Very reasonably, the staff woke him up and told him he needed to leave, and a live-streamed altercation between them ensued. Daniel was arguing with them, saying that were he to go outside, he'd have to wait around for almost an hour in the rain, despite the fact that the outside area was covered and he wouldn't be in the rain at all. I'm not sure what his angle was with this, but at a point, he actively incentivized the person he was interacting with to call the police on him for trespassing, which would absolutely be a violation of his parole and get him sent to jail in no time flat. When a police officer arrives, he tells Daniel that his options are to leave or get arrested. And there's actually a moment in which the cop says to Daniel, "You are getting arrested." It could have been over right then and there, but the plot armor does a Hail Mary effort, and somehow the cop decides not to follow through, giving Daniel the opportunity to leave, which he doesn't take graciously whatsoever. First, he asks the officer for his badge number and name, which I think he only did for moral effect because I'm pretty sure he wouldn't even know how to file a complaint. Then he started cursing at the hospital staff under his breath as he left, going as far as saying this:
"I guess I'll plan a mask on the place. Holy, treat me that way. I'll treat him with disrespect."
Threatening to do that sort of thing anywhere ought to be taken seriously as a premise regardless of whether you're capable of doing such a thing or not, but to make threats like that in a hospital is simply next level. Miraculously, nothing came of this, at least not yet. On the 27th, Daniel claimed to have gotten himself a new hotel room for a week and says that he lost his ID. I mean, he went off the grid to protect his privacy as a famous celebrity. A few days later, the TikTok was made private again, and Daniel told his followers that he'd been learning about the Roman Empire in college, and apparently one of the things he believed he'd learned was that the Caesar salad was invented by Julius Caesar. On the last day of January, the consequences of his actions finally began catching up with him as he posts a slideshow saying he is now facing a plea deal of 1 year in county jail for violating his probation, meaning Daniel is officially headed to the slammer, and it's only a matter of time now. I don't know if someone told him that this was the right time to confess and convinced him it would be a good idea, or if he somehow concluded he should in his own twisted mind, but he proceeded to post this:
"I have been dining and dashing from restaurants almost every day, 3 times a day, for the past 4 years. And Bob doesn't seem to care. From all my dining and dashings, I have probably robbed restaurants over $50,000.
Again, no idea how he arrived at the $50,000 figure, but the point is, this is the first time Daniel has even acknowledged his dining and dashing probably ever, since he usually just pretends like he's done nothing wrong, and even fights with the restaurant staff who try to get money out of him, making up some insane excuse about people calling the place or him being too famous. I guess the plot armor being broken is related to the fog going away. Not the one he faked by concentrating moisture on his camera lens, but the mystical fog that allowed him to be completely disconnected from reality for the majority of his life, to the point where he doesn't even seem capable of recognizing anything he's done wrong. Immediately following his confession, he tells people that his shoes are disintegrating and that he might end up walking barefoot in the snow. Within a day, one of his shoes completely deteriorates and he had to go buy emergency shoes. That day ends ominously, with Daniel posting pictures of black smoke coming from an unseen location, implying there's some kind of fire going on. Perhaps sensing that his time was up and impending doom was fast approaching, Daniel decides to hike to a place he hadn't been in a very, very long time. He takes this as an opportunity to reminisce back to when he lived a more stable life in a home when he still ran marathons.
I used to run along here. That's part of the reason why they decided to kick me out of so many care provider homes, is because I would practice my jogging for like 5-6 hours at a time, and they said that was against the rules, but it doesn't matter anymore. They pissed me off enough.
It was just a couple of years prior, yet it seemed like an eternity given how much he went through in that relatively short period of time. Despite how insane he already was back then, it was the closest we ever saw Daniel to have a healthy life. Given his current predicament, it was also the closest he'd ever be. While he managed to get through the 2nd of February without being caught, everything would change a day later. In the early hours of the morning, Daniel noticed a cop car was slowly circling around his area, and this time it wasn't just his paranoid delusions.
That's the 3rd time I've seen the same police officer follow me.
He was streaming while it happened, and the stream came to an abrupt ending with Daniel announcing a lockdown. While his audience didn't get to see it happen live, eventually someone paid almost $200 to get the body cam footage of it. Surprisingly, it was a peaceful apprehension. Daniel was formally charged with evasion of justice due to having missed multiple court dates, leading him to go to a jail in Colorado with an initial bail of $20,000. According to the subreddit digging into his arrest, the Aurora Police Department was emailed about Daniel, informing them of the threats he had recently made and telling them he should be apprehended instantly due to being a dangerous subject. This was a monumental event for the community. The plot armor, like a dam, sustained too many holes poked into it, and now it was finally collapsing. The body cam footage also included a section where one of the officers was interrogating him. At one point, Daniel begins complaining that the officers were a tad too aggressive, and the interrogator makes a compelling case for why that was necessary.
Okay, did you make statements that you were going to shoot up the Aurora Mall?
I did not.
Okay, on TikTok you did not do that?
No.
Okay, well that's possibly one of the things that you got this warrants on, is because of that, okay?
It's very noticeable the change in demeanor he has when he's met with an actual authority figure who's willing to use aggression against him, especially when juxtaposed with vulnerable people Daniel knows he can take advantage of. Suddenly, there's no shrieking or tongue biting or freaking out, he just accepts his fate. 5 days went by with absolute radio silence from Daniel, and honestly, given how addicted he is to his phone and the internet in general, I have no idea how he wasn't going insane in whatever cell they put him in. In February 8th, his manager, Clark, figured out how to get in contact with Daniel in jail. The resulting phone call was recorded and published by Flexburger on YouTube, and you will never believe what he said.
Yeah, so apparently this is pretty much all Bob's fault, but it's because I haven't been going to my probation meetings because he won't give me my money to be able to get there.
Some things truly never change. Later on in the call, the two discussed Daniel's stint in jail, which apparently is limited to 120 days. Not too shabby for someone who has admittedly cost restaurants $50,000. In the call, we can see that Clark enables Daniel's delusions about grace, which he still believes in steadfastly. A few times, Daniel talks about teamwork and getting people together to pay the bail, which was his way of asking for his audience to shell out $20,000 to bust him out. However, this time the audience seemed to know better than to support such a cause, and any attempt to set up a GoFundMe failed miserably. If he got any treatment in there, it's not showing any effects yet since he's still concerned about writing song lyrics and going to college, neither of which are very important in his particular situation. In the following call from the 12th of that month, we can hear Daniel telling Clark about what's been going on in the jail. Apparently, since they have tablets with Wi-Fi in there, the inmates have been going from cell to cell, showing each other Photoshop pictures of Daniel, and it got to a point where he had to be moved to another cell. That's right, his celeb status is so powerful that he's even famous in jail. The very next day, Daniel was scheduled for a court appearance, but from what I can glean, there were some miscommunications and Daniel didn't show up to court that day. A day later, on the 14th, he did show up to court, and the proceeding concluded on the bond being reduced to $5,000 or just $500 in cash. $500 for freedom. After all that society went through trying to get this man locked up is not that much. A video call was also made around this time, and Daniel can be heard once again besmirching Bob and accusing him of threatening his own well-being in order to manipulate Daniel, though it's unsure what he's talking about. The last call happens closer to the end of the month, and Daniel is openly complaining that Bob has been refusing to pay his bail for him. Ironically, Bob's reasoning for this is that since Grace is a millionaire, she should be the one to pay for it, playing on Daniel's own delusions. Of course, this doesn't work, as on some level, Daniel must know Grace isn't real, which is why he has no expectations on that end and keeps harassing Bob about the bond payment. The call ends with the two talking about a very high likelihood of Daniel leaving very soon, perhaps as soon as that Friday. While he was still behind bars, the video of his Walmart incident, when he went nuts because somebody took his dog, was released in full from the POV of a police officer's body cam.
All right, what's going on today?
So I just bought a dog, adopted a dog 2 days ago, and I'm R&B singer-songwriter, and I got a massive internet fan base.
Okay.
Even in his very disturbed state, he still made sure to tell the cops that he has a massive online fan base. Unfortunately, because this is the point of view of the officers, we only get to see the aftermath of his meltdown, as Daniel's frenzy must have only been caught by CCTV cameras that we don't have access to. Since we live in a fallen world where nothing ever gets solved, on the 1st of March 2024, Daniel attends another court hearing, gets sentenced to 1 year probation, and you guessed it, he got out. Immediately afterwards, he makes a new TikTok account after buying himself a phone, supposedly with the money he got from his music distribution sales. In reality, it seems him being in jail for a month or so changed absolutely nothing, and he kept on doing the exact same thing that he was doing before, recording himself schizophrenically rambling about being on a schedule for his apartment, and of course, his relationship with Grace Vanderwall. It seems weeks of jail time can't stop true love. His next stop after his release was the airport, and I gotta assume he actually has some money to get around the way he does, though it was evaporating quickly after he bought his phone, spent close to $100 on transport alone, then dropped another $40 on some fast food and got himself a hotel room, because after all this time, he's still getting himself actual hotel rooms instead of cheaper alternatives because he's deranged to the point where it's a dichotomy for him between living like a celebrity or on the streets. The thing is, it does seem that his probation requires him to secure housing in order to stay out of jail, meaning if he continues to burn through every dollar he gets his hands on, he'll find himself on an express route back to being behind bars. Later on, he posts a video on TikTok informing people that he's been banned from a restaurant and was refused service despite having money with which to pay for his orders. I don't know if he's lying here or if he's telling the truth and is preemptively banned from all the restaurants in Denver due to his reputation getting around. It's really hard to say. Either way, I was gonna say it's for the best that Daniel isn't being allowed to incinerate his cash in restaurants way above his pay grade, because eventually that money will run out and it's back to dine and dashing. For the time being, things did normalize a tiny bit. Daniel's been paying for things instead of stealing them, refrained from getting in altercations, got a haircut, and he's been attending his probation meetings, even saying that he has good prospects on housing. Sure, he's still delusional, expressing that he's now under the belief that along with the Vanderwalls, he will be suing whoever made a cryptocurrency called Larson coin for inappropriately using his image. Unexplainably, on the 11th, he claims he got in trouble for talking to Bob about being shot at. It's not specified what this trouble was, if this was even the real Bob he was talking to, or why he thought he was being shot at. This signaled that he was falling back into his old ways of being frantically paranoid, and soon after came another TikTok post in which Daniel said Clark told him to get dinner even if he had no money because safety should always be first. Many people took this as evidence that Clark was trying to get Daniel to violate his probation and dine and dash again, and therefore go back to jail. Many of the details for this period are lost due to his account being banned, but since many of the TikTok videos he made were also re-uploaded to his YouTube account, we can still roughly track his movements. On the 12th of March, he showed off a clearly fake envelope that was supposedly from Interscope Records containing his pay as a recording artist. As I understand it, someone gave him that package intended as a fake welcome into the Vanderwall family, and it contained $5. The financial hardships were beginning to hit Daniel hard, prompting him to ask his fan base to come up with $2,000 by the end of the month so that he could pay his court fees and stay out of jail. After just a couple of days of making videos flaunting his new purchases of socks and shoes, he posts a video where he tells his audience he just slipped into a huge puddle, right as he received an alert for more snow, meaning they wouldn't be dry anytime soon. Circumstances were truly dire. As far as his probation was concerned, he had secured transitional housing, the homeless shelter, but whether it was due to his generally disruptive behavior or because people figured out what homeless shelter it was and called it up, Daniel was going to be kicked out. This added to the court fees Daniel is admitting he cannot pay, which doesn't paint a good picture. He tried to raise funds by charging for pictures in a fan meetup, but unsurprisingly it didn't make a lot of profit, and it seems a troll harassed him in some way due to how distressed he was following the event. On the 19th of March, he did a live stream on a bus, for most of which he was completely silent, perhaps aware of what was about to happen. You see, the thin ice he was walking on with the shelter finally cracked due to a conflict with someone named Dylan Clark. This gets a little confusing to explain, but there's the original and true Clark, who was a troll manager involved in many of the more recent incidents, and then there's Dylan Clark, the person with whom he got into an altercation resulting in his eviction from the shelter. Dylan Clark, commonly known as Mr. Interview, or simply Blark, short for Black Clark, was a different beast entirely. An article from USA Today shows that Dylan, when he was still a teenager, called a series of schools that had previously been targets of shootings and made threats that another one was going to be committed, which got him a sentence of 3 years in some kind of jail for minors. Initially, I thought this was another instance of Daniel going ballistic on the phone with some random troll and being kicked out due to being disruptive, but no, Blark had already met with Daniel in real life many times to conduct interviews with him, and though it's unclear what this particular instance was about, he was probably trying to interact with Daniel in some capacity when it became an actual physical altercation in the shelter. His eviction meant he had no housing, and just like that, back to jail he went. and we have footage of the arrest. However, he also went right back out of jail just 2 days later, as during the court proceeding he attended, his probation got reinstated and he was released. When I say that this man simply doesn't learn, I mean it. Within a day of his release, he was back on TikTok doing this.
The FBI can go ahead and press legal charges on me. I will just kill their...
During this unhinged TikTok live, he also made terroristic threats against the Vanderwalls, and I have no idea why. In the following days, there's a kind of stillness that's very fitting for how precarious Daniel's situation was, living on the streets in the days preceding a blizzard, and constantly on the verge of going back to jail. In the meantime, he bought some homeless guy a cheesecake and posted this comedy gold to his YouTube channel.
Fuck you, Daniel Larson. I have been having sex with Grace while you have been rotting in jail. She doesn't want to be with you if you are going to be a criminal, you... She is my girlfriend now, so get over it, you little pussy-ass bitch.
Because of this supposed breakup with Grace, Daniel decided to delay housing until 2025, which obviously was going to land him in jail for sure. He continues begging for money for a multitude of different legitimate reasons, but whenever he actually gets some money, however he does so, which I still don't understand, he immediately goes suspended on $200 a night hotel rooms and expensive restaurants. He manages to continue attending his court meetings, though he's 4 hours late to one of them, missing it entirely, all while live streaming and blaming Grace for his lack of punctuality. His last few uploads from March are very strange. In the first one, he retells the situation with Bob via geese, confusing himself in the process.
2 Canada geese fight each other in an argument. That's exactly my friendship with Bob and what we do. I'm the one that's on the right. Bob is the one on the left, saying, please don't leave me. You need help. I know we're in a screwed up situation, but please, don't walk away from me. This is all your fault. I don't know where we are, the one on the left says. But the one on the right, he's the one having a real fun time.
It's very disturbing to see how Daniel's mind operates this transparently and just how deluded he is. Then he posts a video titled, "The night an angel came to me saying I'm not safe in Denver anymore," which has nothing but nearly 4 minutes of complete silence. Lastly, he made a community post with a picture to prove that he'd been in the hospital, which initially caused some concern, until he revealed in a comment that he'd just gone in there to check on his skin. April begins with more strange activity. Daniel claims to be stranded in Manitou Springs, and uploads a hilarious fake AI video of Ox, Bob, and Gypsy Crusader in a Discord call discussing their evil troll plans for Daniel.
We managed to get a drone to follow him around. We had him pull the fire alarm at Olive Garden. He still doesn't know about the GPS tracker we put inside the lining of his jacket. I don't even know what to do with all the ad revenue the subreddit has given us. Even with all the white trucks and red cars we've hired to gang stalk Daniel full-time, I still find myself with an overwhelming amount of money.
As much as this is psychological terrorism at its finest, the way they tailored every single statement to cater to hyper-specific paranoias of Daniel is really a fine piece of art. His time as a free man was short-lived, as he once again got arrested on the 2nd of April for being a fugitive of justice, with a bond of over $1,500. But again, he got released, this time just a day later, due to a court order. This infuriated the trolls, who were sick of the revolving door arrests Daniel was getting, and so they hatched a plan to generate another incident. They tricked Daniel into thinking the local Buffalo Wild Wings was interested in hiring him. This campaign happened to coincide with Daniel's trench foot getting really painful during an extremely cold and windy day, in which he had to walk something like 50 miles to attend his court appointment. It's as if every factor colluded to make him go nuts. They got what they wanted, as being turned away from the Wild Wings and realizing he'd been duped completely broke Daniel's mind. I'm not quite sure what happened. Either the first stream got stopped for whatever reason and he had to start a new one, or it automatically split into 2 due to technical issues, but Daniel's rampage is divided into 2 halves, the latter containing the majority of it.
You, Bob! You! I will bomb your house! Till the day you die! Bomb you! Bomb you! Bomb you! Bomb you! Kill you! Kill you! Kill you! Call the feds on me, you f***ing liar! This is a message to Daniel McDougall. You didn't listen to Bob and me, and this is what you get.
Besides the insanely loud winds, the rest of the live stream just has Daniel repeatedly saying the words bomb and kill, and referring to places like police stations or the White House for his targets. He also began hitting the ground at a few points. Soon after this incident, he goes to the hospital as his trench foot had returned and was worsening, but he gets discharged almost immediately and goes back to the windy streets where he nearly has another meltdown as the wind gods attempt to destroy him.
Bob, help! Bob, help! You, Bob! Help! You bitch! You, Bob! You!
The winds were really taking their toll on Daniel, who soon after made another stream about how his entire body was sore, but cut the stream short once everyone in the comments began telling him to start running.
Stop telling me to run. I will block everybody in this chat. I will block 100% everybody. Yep, I'm blocking everybody in this chat for harassment.
The next few days after his initial barrage of wind was mostly uneventful, as Daniel managed to successfully show up to court. On the 12th of April, he found himself back at the hospital due to food poisoning. Like The Dark Knight Rises, we were wondering what would break first, his plot armor or his body. And it seems Daniel's old carcass is giving up the ghost from all of the years of abuse. Really makes me miss the days he lived in an actual house. On the 15th, he laments his own situation.
I have been walking like this for hours and hours, days and days on end for 5 years, and it's killing me.
Sure, being perpetually sunbeaten and homeless isn't good, but I suspect Daniel doesn't help his own case.
I don't even remember the last time I even had a, actual glass or cup of water, because all I have is Monster drinks.
Now this is truly relatable. Soon after confessing to being the true white monster fiend, he reveals he's once again stepped into a puddle of water and gotten all of his clothes wet, meaning the trench foot is soon to get even worse than it was before. He doesn't care though, and continues to live the same way as always, burning through hundreds of dollars despite knowing he has to get housing and pay off his court fees without a care in the world. God, I wish that were me. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. On the 25th of April, a federal arrest warrant for Daniel Larson was issued, meaning his time was up for real this time. Despite that, he continued to engage in his usual shenanigans, though noticeably, he was keeping it together and not taking too many chances with thieving or dashing, which kept him afloat for the time being. I don't think he even had an idea that there was a federal warrant for his arrest, and I guess that's good. It's not like him knowing would make any real difference in the end anyway. On the 27th, it was the beginning of the end. He relapsed and got escorted out of the Pump House restaurant by the police, who I'm guessing didn't know about the warrant either since they didn't arrest him. Just a day later, he went to Buffalo Wild Wings and dashed on over $50 worth of food, and this is the last straw that broke the camel's back. Well, this, and the fact that he admitted on his YouTube community page that he watched CP, blaming it on the FBI and the Secret Service for showing him what it was in the first place. Not a great move, all things considered. Some poor law enforcement agent actually had to sift through all the reports regarding Daniel and document the over 100 threats he made since 2021, all of which culminated in this arrest, which, unlike the others, left Daniel ineligible for bond, meaning he's not getting out of this one that easy. Most of the information regarding this arrest and its ramifications, including the charges he's getting, was elaborated on by Daniel himself, who called Clark up on the 1st of May and talked about the situation.
The feds pretty much got me.
The feds got you?
This time the feds got me.
Based on the court documents that are available, Daniel faced up to 65 years in prison, along with over $1 million worth of fines. To make matters worse, in a shocking turn of events, the seemingly made-up Secret Service agent, Daniel McDougal, is not only revealed to be a real person, but played a key role in getting him behind bars. In the end, Mr. President was taken down by his own security. There was a motion for his release, but it was summarily denied by the judge, and it seemed like he wasn't going to get away with it this time. Near the end of May, his court dates were canceled, and Daniel was ordered to undergo a mental health evaluation. And a few days later, he was transferred to Englewood Federal Correctional Institution, which is also where Jared Fogle is being held. For a period of time, there were no public developments to Daniel's status until July 19th, when court documents show that he was found incompetent for trial and placed in a mental health facility. He does have another competency hearing set for September, and at least in theory, he could eventually be found competent for trial. If that happens, he may get a sentence that, since it probably will ultimately be much shorter than the full 65 he was initially facing, will allow him to eventually legally walk the streets as a free man once again. However, he may also never be considered competent and stay in the mental hospital forever. Either way, it's safe to say that the last chapter in the Daniel Larson story has been closed. Hopefully, at least. I've been Turkey Tom. Thanks for watching this extremely long video about one of the craziest people on the internet. I know we've gone over a lot today, but just let it be known if you made it this far. I do appreciate it. I had fun making it. Hopefully you all had fun watching it. But without further ado, always remember to leave me alone.